So, welcome to another video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today is our August monthly debrief. And this, I know that it's like the time of watching, it's the middle of September, quite literally. But,
I mean, what do you expect?
Yes.
Right? What do you expect?
You got one. It's fine.
Yeah, it came out.
It's just been a very busy time, kind of, over here at the Players Aid.
It's actually been a crazy month.
Yeah.
What with coming back from WBC and going to Gen Con for a day, there's just been a lot going on.
And that's just it. Normally we try to record these at like a beginning of a month, and
We never get them recorded at the beginning
no,
of the month.
and so like, but like we've been at conventions at the end of July, beginning of August, and that kind of just pushes everything back. And we're trying to play some stuff. And
Well,
lots
last
of
week
things
was
going
Labor
on.
Day weekend.
Yeah.
We didn't really do anything.
So yeah,
It's just part of life.
But we're here. It is that time where we're going to ramble for a bit, and you get to sit.
And you're going to watch.
So, you're welcome. But yeah, I feel like we didn't play a lot together this month. Indeed, we may have only played once together.
Only one time. Well, that's not true. We played Frosthaven once
Sure.
with our father-in-law for about 5 hours.
Yes.
That was an awesome scenario, by the way. I really enjoyed that one.
We played two that night, right?
We played two. But
Yeah.
we did that one where you two idiots died previously and we failed the scenario.
Yes.
And I almost won it. I just needed one more card.
But yeah,
which was hilarious.
That was cool because it's reverse Gloomhaven.
Yeah, it
Where
was.
you're building your hand out instead
Rather
of
than-
destroying your deck down
Yeah.
this time. It was really cool. Very
was.
different way to think about things. Yeah, that was a blast. And then also, we've started up at a Hackmaster table.
And I knew this would happen. I knew when we committed to playing every other Friday night that it would cut into our wargaming time.
And it has.
And it has.
And that's fine. There's
We'll
no harm in
adjust.
it.
We'll then just do it on Saturdays
But also,
and never have any family time.
it's not as if we haven't done lots of other gaming as well.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You've
yeah.
done a lot of solo
Yep.
games. I've done a couple, and then also been playing a lot online as well.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about lots of games that have been played, but yeah, hopefully we can kind of get back into doing more together as well.
Get back into a good groove.
Yes.
Well, it's fall, right? Things start to calm down, I feel like. Well, school's back in session.
But you get into a bit more of a routine, so it's easier to plan
Yeah.
like, hey, this, and this.
Although my daughter with color guard, I have to go to competitions
Is that
now.
starting up again?
Yep, Saturday's her first competition at 8:45 in the evening.
Oh.
Well, she's 6A.
I thought you were going to say AM, and I was
No.
ready to be disgusted. But it's
No.
8:15
She's 6A,
PM.
and they start with single A and go the whole day, so they end up being.
Oh my god.
It's not always like that, but it is almost always late afternoon, early evening.
Gross.
It's just part of it. It lasts for 3 months. That she has a blast. We enjoy going. So yeah.
Also, just if anyone's wondering, if you see me doing this a lot, I had a root canal this morning. It's quite painful.
I'm actually impressed that you're hanging in there, and we're going to try to do this and
Yeah.
also another video, and maybe even then play a game.
Yes,
So-
which we plan to do.
Because I have free time today, and it's like we got to play.
Yeah, and I took
So-
a bunch of medicine, and
I mean, by a bunch, he means 3 ibuprofen.
yes.
And if
So-
any of you understand how ibuprofen works, if I punch you in the arm really hard, it'll work better on the pain because it creates new pain and distracts you from the old pain.
But yeah.
Ibuprofen's nothing.
So if I start like sweating or I'm like, in pain, that's why. So I'm doing fine at the moment, but as things go
You seem
on,
to be hanging in there.
Yeah.
I'll reach over and kind of smack you once.
The
and-
numbness is wearing
Oh,
off. and
boy.
it's
You
getting
mentioned
more
in a
sore.
text to me as I was coming over, you were like, I feel as if I've been hit in the face by a fastball.
Yeah, it was
like, nice.
because it was like all in this one area, and now it's like quite acute in my tooth. So we'll see how this goes. But so this video sponsored by Noble Knight Games.
Our friends at Noble Knight Games.
Yes, we're very grateful for their sponsorship. More from them later. But we will also, in September, we're driving up there. We're actually doing that next week as we're recording
One
this.
week from today.
We are quite literally packing the car as full to the brim with games as we can to kind of sell those and put those back into circulation for other people, and hopefully not come back with a carload. We'll come back with some. I know we will.
No, this is
But,
going to be really challenging because if they let me loose in that warehouse,
I'm very, very excited to see what they have in the little storefront area and take a tour and whatnot.
I feel like I'm going to be like Indiana Jones. That guy at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark is walking into the warehouse, and it's just like chocked to the ceiling with, I imagine those filled with war games.
I mean, yes.
Imagine. And I'm just going to take a couple of those out as I brought a couple of them in. So hopefully I won't bring out the evil one that has...
That when you open it, it melts your face.
Melts your face, yeah. You know.
Although
Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah. I feel like we've played some games where I felt like that, though.
No, that's absolutely true. And a lot of the games that we're taking to Noble's Night probably fit in that category. Not every one of them, but some of them we just had to make tough choices.
Yep.
Right? And I felt like I was brutal. I have 82 games going into that pile.
I think I currently have 40. That's 40. And
How do I have more than you? Do I have more games than you?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
But also...
I have a bigger problem than you do?
No, but you also have like a lot of holdover Euro games from back in the day, which I coached those a long time ago.
I probably am getting ready to 30 of those, probably.
And part of us doing that is what we do, where we get and review lots and lots of new games and put those out. We can't keep them all.
No.
It's not reasonable.
No.
And
It's not.
I already have like 4 or 5 shelves. You also have 4 or 5 shelves.
Well, and I also would like to stay married to my lovely wife.
Yeah. So like between the two of us, we have probably
an ungodly
easily
amount of games.
close to 1,000 games. That's both stupid.
A little less than that, but I think I have close to 500 games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got that much too.
Okay, so we might have 1,000. But I'm giving away 80.
It's close. Yeah, it might be slightly less.
I'm cutting my collection by like 20%.
That's
25%.
That's my goal, is to be utterly ruthless and just like get rid of stuff so that we have shelf space to play more games.
And it's also interesting, when we do these videos, we do draw on our collections a lot, right?
Yes.
We go back and we draw, we take a game or two off the shelf, and I'm glad that we have those from time to time. So that may be a little more challenging as we go forward, like with your From Cover to Cover series. But we'll figure it out. And you know what? If we have to end up getting another copy of a game in the future because we miss it that much, then we can do that. We have a problem. That's just
and
the way
maybe
it works.
that will help me to be more like
judicious about what you keep and what you don't.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
we all know that's... But, like, maybe I'll be more rigorous in my bookkeeping on BGG about my collection.
Oh.
So when we say, hey, let's do a video on Napoleonics...
You can search.
Maybe I can do that a bit easier.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for us to sit here, look at the shelves, and pick them out.
Well, I will also say, some of the things that I culled from my collection were games that I know you really, really like and that you're keeping.
Yes.
Right? So I might also like them, but I don't love them so much that I want to have 2 copies that will never ultimately
And I've done a couple the same way, where it's like, hey, if you want this, you can keep it, or if not, it's going.
Like Fire in the Lake, we both have a copy.
Yeah.
The
And
British way,
never
we
change.
both have a copy. Pendragon, I'm never going to change that, right? So, anyway.
But yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to that. We also, just FYI, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I'm very excited for that. That's next week on the 15th and 16th. We're going to be there. We're driving up to Wisconsin early Friday morning. If you want to be there and say hi.
It's a 6-hour drive, too, by the way. Just we're going to make a couple car videos. At least one or two.
And but also, thanks everyone for your suggestions about those. I have a list of a few that I've already started building out, things that we can talk about.
Oh, good.
So
it just takes some notes and
that's
yeah. That's probably the hardest part sometimes. I'm like, I want to talk about a lot of stuff, but
some
my
of the
brain
ideas
is failing.
Really, really good.
Good.
So I have
this is where the rambling has, well, it's already been going on for about 5 minutes, but
so I've already started, like, someone was talking about just like
topics,
specific topics or periods of history that are interesting re-wargaming.
So
like I put some of mine, we can put some of yours on there as well, and then another one that was games that elicit emotions other than like irregular competition. I thought that would be very interesting, especially with some of the games you've been playing recently.
That elicit emotion other than competition.
So think about something like Endurance.
Right.
Where you're like...
It elicits a lot of bleak and dreary emotions, but it's a very interesting experience. So that might be one that would fit into that category.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was kind of it was a very
that.
interesting esoteric topic that came up, and I'm like, if I put some thought into it, I've got 4 or 5 on there where I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Like, that does things to you other than just like... Let's have a fight.
Another one I would fit into that is the Red Burnous. Now,
Yes.
we did not play it the 2-player variant. We did the cooperative mode, didn't we? I thought we played the cooperative mode together. Where we
It's
were
always
both
co-op against
right.
the...
But that one, I remember thinking about the times that we have played the Imperial sides, right, against, I don't want to say weaker, but lesser trained and armed.
Usually you're like heavy imperialists or colonizers
Yeah,
doing
so
stuff.
the French versus the Berbers. A fantastic game that really got me to thinking a lot about. So that might be one that would go on that list.
And I think that could, like, so
Yeah,
some of the
I
topics
need to
that
think
are
about
suggested,
that.
I'm like, there's some stuff to think about and talk about.
Because I want to make a list, and then we can make a joint list, and then we can use that as prompts. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to do several of those car videos, at least probably 2 or 3. We've got
at least a couple
hours.
on the way up and on the
Are
way
you
down,
driving
so.
or am I driving?
I'll drive because the
Okay.
big old car.
Got it. So I'll have to figure out how to work the equipment.
Well, we'll set it up before. And
Okay,
then it's
we'll
a
just let
case
it
of
run.
Screw it on, press the go button,
Okay,
basically.
good point.
Yeah, I don't
know if you know this, but I'm a little technically challenged. Somewhat.
Yes, and I will not be doing this, reaching over to the other side. We will not
While
be
I
doing
hold
that.
the wheel. I'm trying to keep us straight. We have a great fear one time of one of these car videos ending in found footage where we're dead and broken in a culvert, and they find the video and they're like, what happened?
Or you'll get the great outtakes of like when someone cuts us off and it's all like smashing the horn, profanities galore.
Hilarious.
If that ever happened,
All
I
right,
would
so
love
we have wasted plenty of these people's time.
So yes, let's talk about some games that we played in August.
Yeah.
We'll start with the one outside of Frosthaven. I'm not going to get it off the shelf.
Yeah.
I get it off every month.
We played another Frosthaven, surprise, surprise.
Played some Hackmaster. It was really good.
Hackmaster's a very interesting system.
I really like the combat system.
Yeah, I think it's very unique. There's no specific initiative value. Your initiative value is determined by the speed of your weapon. And it just continually counts.
Well, it's your like dexterity or wisdom. One of your abilities is a modifier
Modifies,
to
yeah.
a die. When you're on a D12,
Yeah.
subtract that. That's how many seconds delay it takes you. And yeah, the combat is.
It's interesting.
You have a little seconds timer, and so you're like a counter for like counting
Yep.
people. I don't know what you call those things,
Yeah, I don't either.
but
The click, click. Yeah.
it was very interesting. A very
Very cool.
different way to approach combat, which was cool.
I also really enjoy the defensive ability that you have where you do counter. Like
Yeah.
the monster attacks you and you roll your defensive die.
Always
I enjoy
love
that.
active defense.
Yeah.
And so basically all your attack rolls are opposed.
Yes.
So even if you roll poorly, they might roll worse.
I
There's
mean, there were
always a chance.
several times where I rolled like a 12, a modified 12, and I'm like, okay, and they'd roll a 4, and I would hit them still.
And then you can do perfect defense. If you roll a 20 on defense, you can parry and counterattack
Yep.
them for free.
which is fun.
That's, it makes those things just that much cooler that you can do that stuff. And that was really fun to watch.
Yeah,
for sure.
very interesting.
So yeah, we played as part of our very slow-paced and ongoing Guns of August event.
Guns of the last quarter of the year is what we're going to start calling it.
Is Verdun 1916 Steel Inferno from Fellowship of Simulations. We have a full review of this coming up at some point.
I did a written first impression as well, so you
Yeah.
can read about that.
This game is excellent.
Yeah.
This was recommended to us very highly by a number of people. Finally got a hold of a copy, because I think this is quite difficult to get a hold of.
This will not be going to Noble Knight Games
No, this will never leave the collection.
unless I take
That's
it
how
from
good
you.
it is.
Yeah, it's very good.
So if you can find this, it is a 2-player, kind of a, not quite a dudes on a map game, but like it's done by areas.
Area impulse.
But you also,
concept.
it's also a bucket of dice game, and it's also a CDG. But there's so much to consider.
Yeah.
The more you play it, the more you're like, oh, this part of it, and this part of it, and oh, I could have done this, but I had to set it up. There's so much going
Yeah.
on here. In a really good way, not in like a confusing 32 pages of rules way.
Well, and it's a war game. There's no doubt that it's a war game, but I feel like it's more of a strategy game almost. I mean, it's got war elements, but I think it's more of a strategy game because
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
there are many different ways to ultimately score victory points. You do those offensive cards, which are very cool. And
But you typically have to set yourself up for that.
You do.
And so
You
then
have
it's,
to plan.
How much do I dedicate
Yep.
to that? What do I...
but it's more than
Really
just
good.
going at it back and forth. Like as the French, I only initiated combats 3 or 4 times maybe. I did a lot of barrages, but I tried to get those offensives to go and to go off for me, and because I could get 4 to 8 victory points. And ultimately in the end, I'm just trying to keep your victory points on the negative side.
yeah.
So it's just very unique. We learned a lot. We want to play it again.
Yes.
We need to play it again. But it very interesting.
Yeah, this definitely rewards multiple plays, and it's almost something where you kind of have to play it, and then you're like, oh, like if someone had sat down and tried to like
Yeah.
intellectually explain all that stuff to me, I'm like, first off, that's boring.
Yeah.
Like, that's because there's so much to it in the depth and nuance of this game. Really, really, really good.
And it is a long game. I mean, we played it
Yeah.
for like 3.5 hours, and I think you conceded in like turn
In turn 5
Out
of
of-
6.
of 6, yeah. Great game.
Yeah,
Great game.
it was not going to happen. at
and
that
the
point.
art is fantastic. Tardy is the artist, right?
Yes.
Who is a French comic artist, and it just really fits well. It reminds me a lot of The Grizzled, that same kind of style.
Yes, it's definitely
its own style.
but it's that same hand-drawn, almost an antiquated style. It's very,
So good.
it's really, really good.
So gritty and
Excellent game.
really also creates, talking about thematic, that creates some bleak when you look at those pictures.
Solitaire.
So that was the only one we did
yeah, it's only game we
together.
played together.
Frost
Solitaire. I played Aces of Valor.
Did you do a video on this one?
I shot the board for it, but I wasn't sure if you were going to play it as well and we could do a video together.
I was going to try to play it.
But if not, I'll just do it.
Why don't you go ahead and do it on your own?
Okay.
I've clipped mine. I just have so many other games that I'm
Totally
trying to get
understand, totally
played.
understand.
I want to play it. There's no doubt. Legion is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a nice little hybrid where it's a little bit of like a Greg Smith chart roller where it's like I move to the area, is there an event, you know, kind of a thing. But it has a fixed map that you're moving on, and it's like when you're flying over the trenches, it's more dangerous. Or like here's the anti-aircraft zones. If you're over an enemy airfield, they can respond easier. But then the combat isn't just I roll a d10 and did I get a 7 or more. The combat has this whole like initiative system on it,
Okay.
and you basically roll and line all the guys up, and you attack from like highest to lowest, and you have to attack the nearest guy. And so it's a really cool system about how that works, and combat differentials and stuff is really neat.
Yeah.
So
I would really
like.
like to play it, but I've got other games that I'm thinking about playing.
Absolutely freaking brutal.
Oh, I've
If you-
heard that your
if-
guys die.
If you get on the
all the
bad
time.
side of a dogfight, everyone's
done.
gone. It's like, oh, gross. Another thing that I had played, which I was very early
Oh, yeah.
in August, so it feels like it wasn't forever away, was Pursuit of Glory. And I used the... Do I still have it kicking around somewhere?
The CDG method
Yeah,
with
I used
GMT.
There it is. I used the... That's not very helpful, is it? So I used the Solitaire...
It's Washington's War.
Yeah, right.
No, it's not, but it can be used to play Washington's War.
No, this particular module. Well, that's the funny part of it is that this is Solitaire CDG system. This is packet 1. That
Yeah.
doesn't include Pursuit of Glory. Packet 2 includes Pursuit of Glory, but
Okay.
packet 2 isn't quite out yet.
So Packet 2 just arrived at my house
Oh, it did
a week
wonderful.
ago. I haven't done anything with it.
But huge credit to GMT. When they released packet 2, they put up all of the modules on PDFs online so you could print them off. So as soon as that hit, I printed that off, set this up, and I was like, oh, let's do
Nice.
it. This is... There's a full review of this coming out, and there is also... I did an AAR going through all the different turns that we did. It was really, really, really wonderful. It was very good. There was a lot of like extras and chrome on top of it to simulate the massive, wild kind of spectrum of geopolitics and religion. There's so much like little things that are going on. So I can understand why people maybe don't like it as much as Paths of Glory, because Paths of Glory is like, hey, here's these big powers, and they're fighting this way.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's like, hey, there's this rebellion that pops up, or like, you have all of these...
Your
jihad
cards
wars
are
going on.
sleeved.
Yes, I sleeved them.
Wow. Look how fancy you are. Dang.
I don't know why I did that, but I did it.
Okay,
no.
Brad Stock and Brian Stock are the designers,
Yes.
not Ted Racer.
No, but he uses his. I sleeved them because this game's quite old. This copy of it especially, and so the cards were a little bit concave.
Warped.
And so I was like, we're just going to sleeve them just so it doesn't look so horrible. But
Look
really
how fancy.
cool.
How does this compare overall? I know you said it's got a little more chrome. Paths of Glory, other than the fact that Paths of Glory is big powers, these are a little smaller battles. How's it compare? Same style of CDG, same style of mechanics?
So do you remember there was the little action chart where it's like, you can't play this if you've done this? And the
All
core
the same.
system's the same.
Okay.
The way the strategic movement, the big units that go down to small ones.
Yeah,
and if you don't have small ones in your reserves, they're just dead.
Right.
The same supply that's absolutely punishing is still in there.
So the other game in this series is Illusions of Glory.
Yes.
Do you have that one?
No.
We don't have that one.
And I believe
It's coming out on like third printing, I think.
Is that like East Front and the Balkans?
I believe it's like Russia, East Front, yeah.
But yeah, this was really cool. And it was also nice to just kind of like potter around with solo, just so I could kind of like take it in a bit more and do that. So this was really fun. Very cool.
Maybe for Guns of August next year, we could play that together. Nice. Well, while he's putting that away, and by the way, I do have that CDG pack too, and I've started looking at it, but
it works. This works really well. I talked about that in the review. If you want to do solo CDGs, this is a great option.
Yeah. So let's look at a couple of the solo games I played. So Alexander already mentioned. What the hell are those things in bags? I do those with the dice.
It's the dice.
The dice. Lots of six-siders in this one. This is Endurance. So this is the Shackleton expedition in like 1914, 1915, where they went to Antarctica and they basically struggled for a couple of years, but miraculously, no one died. So this game is about the struggle to keep these men alive. And that's what you do the entire time. And it shifts from you're having to do tests and take actions. And they're actions like, do the sled dogs over the ship and get some more supplies, or go hunting, or, do these things. And then there's test. It's, do you have enough food? Do you have enough fuel to heat your cook things and keep yourself warm? And all these things. Do you have the entertainment to improve their morale? And it's just so fun. It's a lot of dice rolling. It's a cool system because successes are based on their skill levels, and that's mostly 4, 5, and 6. And then if you roll ones, those are failures, and you subtract those failures from your successes. And more often than not, you got to get 2 or 3 successes, and you're rolling 7 or 8 dice. If you roll a ton of ones, which I have, you utterly fail, and then people get demoralized. And you keep going until they get more and more demoralized. If everybody's demoralized, then you lose the game. But it's very cool. It shifts in the middle where you're out on the ocean trying to get to Elephant Island in lifeboats, and then you have to do test cards that are basically like a straight or a series, 2 2s or 2 4s, and it's just unique and different. But every time you roll those dice, you're holding your breath because you know you're going to die. And I think these men felt that. And I think it's a very great design. I think Amabel Holland did a fantastic job on this. This is not a game you're going to play and be like, oh, what a great time I had. But you're going to be like, wow, that was interesting. So really enjoyed that full playthrough and review coming. Really enjoyed it. Not a war game. This is a board game. But it doesn't matter because it's awesome. I really enjoyed it. I also have been getting my teeth kicked in. I didn't need a root canal, though. Habsburg Eclipse, 3rd edition. This is States of Siege series. This is designed by Darren Leveloff, put out by Victory Point Games and Tabletop Tycoon. So this is the 3rd edition. You have 2nd edition or 1st edition?
I'm going to say it's 2nd edition.
Okay. Pizza box from Victory Point
I have
Games.
the old little Victory Point Games pizza
You can
boxes,
see this is not a pizza box. This is a very well-designed, very well-produced game. Counters are gorgeous. Cards are fantastic. Do I have Autumn and Sunset? No, it's combined with Autumn. I was like, did I have the wrong box? Because I'm playing the other one. Great looking board, and it's going to kick your teeth in. I've played 12 times. I haven't really even come close to winning.
Yeah,
and I'm totally okay with that. Really, every time I played, I'm like, oh, okay, that sucked. And I set it back up, and it's like I'm sucked sucked in by its vortex. Like a moth to the flame, I just can't take enough abuse. So really enjoy this. This is now available. Full review and playthrough coming. Really had a great time with this.
Which
really
will be
enjoyed
fun
it.
because you could watch that, and we have very old reviews of those two original ones.
The
So you
original.
can go back and compare what they used to look like.
Yeah, there you go. And I've got Autumn and Sunset. That's a game I'm going to play. In fact, I've already been playing it in September and really enjoy it. So those are the games that I played this month, just those 2 solo games. I thought I did pretty good.
So I played a couple other games. So I played Bismarck Solitaire Deluxe Edition. So this is the boxed
that?
version of the book game from Worthington Games.
Book games.
So I'd originally played that where you like, you know, checking it off and you draw on it and then it's kind of done with. This is basically just a boxed version of this with pieces, and their pieces are very nice. And it's
They always do a good job with their production.
Absolutely, they do.
Always really
And then
good.
there's like big play cards for each of the scenarios. They give you, I don't know if I showed you this, they give you a little fake easel that you can
to hold up the plays.
To stand up like, this is this scenario that you're playing.
Nice.
Hey. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah. That's a neat innovation.
Yeah, it's just
Maybe more solo games should do that.
a cute way to do it. But this also includes a new thing in here. This has the Battle of Denmark straight in it.
So that's not
which is
included?
Not in the book game. It has its own separate map and its own little separate special rules in that, so that it's not just the same stuff regurgitated. And having spoken with the Wileys at WBC,
Yep.
it was interesting because they said this was originally designed as a board game, then they converted it to a book, and now it's gone back to a board game
That's
again,
pretty
which I
funny.
thought was pretty fun.
Was there a reason for that? I think they did it because there was difficulty in production and sourcing of materials at that time. It was over COVID.
And that's exactly why it was
Yeah.
being designed as a board game, and the pandemic hit, and they're like, well, how do we get this? So they converted it into books using Amazon's print-on-demand service, and they're like, oh, this is really successful.
Well, and they've done how many of those? 5 or 6 of those?
Oh,
that
at
they've
least,
done?
because they did
There's a Waterloo one.
Waterloo, there's Braveheart, there's
There's a Gettysburg one as well.
I think so, there's an East Front one, there's Braveheart, there's Coral Sea, there's at least 6 or 7 of those. And I don't
I've
think they're stopping.
I've really heard good things about them. I've never played them, unfortunately. You have played Bismarck. I need to give them a shot. I just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, I mean they're very light, little kind of solo games, but especially if you get a little book and 2d6, you take them anywhere.
Sure.
I also played a lot of games.
So that was the stop of the real game playing.
Yes.
Now it's the video
Now
game.
we'll go through rallythetroops.com. If you're on rallythetroops.com, invite me to games.
I need to get on there. Why am I not on there?
I don't
'Cause
know.
I'm just stupid.
So I have once again played a lot of Andy and Abyss. This month I feel like I did play with a lot of new people as well. It was nice.
So the other people are getting tired of playing with you?
That's definitely happened.
Okay.
I've definitely had people who are like, okay, we're done now.
Because they kick the crap out of you and they don't feel challenged, or you kick the crap out of them?
Or they're like, hey man, maybe you play this too much, like get a life. Like people
I've
are
thought
like,
the same
I
thing.
have a job. I
Right,
can't
right.
do this all day.
Yeah.
But this was, Andy and Abyss is a classic at this point for me. I love it. I think I'm currently at, all told, 47 games played of this.
That is by far the most we've ever played any coin game.
Without question.
I
yes.
think Fire in the Lake, we're probably at like 15.
Maybe, I think I'm more than 15.
I'm not talking about digital plays.
Oh, sure.
Talking about real
We've played a lot.
board game plays. Video games don't count.
Well, in that case, I've played Andy and Abyss like 3 times.
Okay, well, they count.
But yeah,
Just
that
being
was
a curmudgeon.
played a lot of that. I also have recently been playing Wilderness War on there. It took me a while to kind of jump back into this because it's a bit more complicated,
Yeah.
and the UI for this is really good. It's very, very helpful. There's a little button to like highlight the supply lines of where you have supply.
Oh, nice.
Things like that. It's excellent. So thank you, everyone. I'm currently in like 3 or 4 games of this, and I've completed like 3 or 4. So I think, and it's this game has been kind of a journey because this was one of our very first ever war
Yeah.
games, like 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember we played it. It took us like 9 hours, and stupid like
Over
that.
like 3 or 4 sessions.
And it was really cool. And also, like, this game's quite punishing if you mess up.
And we did a lot.
Yes. But like revisiting this and kind of relearning it, it's like visiting an old friend again. And I love this just as much, if not more now, as I did back then.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. But also, like, the first few games of this, it was like, I got all of my guys killed. Like, I was playing...
Which is easy to have. Were you the French?
No, I was
Really?
the English. Yeah,
Okay,
but I
wow.
was like hyper aggressive. But I would do attacks from a wilderness space into another wilderness
Which has
space.
negative...
Lose, and when you retreat, if you can't retreat into like a stockade or a fort, everyone dies.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't tell
remember
you
that.
how many times I've done that.
Yeah.
And there was one game where I was like, I had big stacks, and like, I damn well should have won those. And it was like, everyone died, and I was like, I don't have any troops left.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I concede. I'm going to lose. Like, we don't need to draw this out. I'm so sorry. But then other games, it's been like, take Louisburg, and then you swing around to Quebec, and then it's like, the pressure that you can put on people. This is it's such an interesting game. I love it.
This was one of the very first, I think, true asymmetric games that we played.
Yes.
We played others kind of around the same time, Labyrinth and our first coins, but I remember the asymmetry to me was like a smack in the face. Like,
Yes.
I'm the French. I don't have the power that the British do. You have the Highlander guys that are like
4-4, yeah.
4. I mean, they can kill everything if in the right situation. And I was like, how the hell am I going to win this game? And it's like, all of a sudden it dawned on me, it was designed this way, Grant, because this is what happened historically. The French didn't stand up necessarily toe-to-toe with the British. They did all these harrying of supply lines and attacking of villages and forts and burning the frontier, and that's the way you gain victory points. And you've got to win 1 or 2 little key battles and take maybe 1 fort or city, and as the French, you can win the game. And it's just like, I remember thinking, damn, that's awesome.
I use my 3 value card, which is very strong, to activate 6 Indians or like light infantry to go and do raids.
Yeah.
And you're going to pick up victory points off of that. And it's like, you'll force the English to be very aggressive in their military campaign. Which if
ends
you
up
can
bad
get them off kilter,
Yep.
then they're going to make mistakes. There's so much to like in this. It shows its age a little bit, I think.
Well, it was one of those 2010, 2008, 2009, 2010 point-to-point movement games, CDG, so it was a new concept, and it's very good. I love it.
I love this.
That will never leave my collection.
No, I bought a copy.
Did you really?
I just bought a copy like 2 days ago.
Did you get the mounted map board?
I did.
Okay.
Because I was like, you know what? I'm playing this so much, I'm going to make a lot of video content on that as well.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do like a faction function on it as well.
Sure.
After I play the French a bit more.
I did a French strategy and tactics post like way long time ago. I read that now and I'm like, okay, you got some cool points, but you don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, that's cool.
Yes. I also played for the first time Hammer of the Scots. I think I've played like, with a couple of people, I've played like 3 or 4 games of this. Hammer of the Scots is a classic Columbia Games block game. I will also do a video review on this as well at some point.
This came out before Richard III, right?
Yes. I think this was one of their very first ever.
Because I don't think Richard III was much longer after that.
This came out, this was like brand new when we got it in like 2016.
Okay.
But I think this one's been out longer than that.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. It doesn't say on the box. It does come in a pizza box though, so that's nice. So yeah, I also played some Richard III. Richard III is wonderful. I love Richard III.
The Potato Gambit.
Yes, and I have done that to a number of people.
Absolutely. You just forget about the Irish. They're kind of just sitting over there and you forget about
But
them.
like Hammer of the Scots looks and feels similar in its core mechanics. You're trying to control the nobles in the same way, and then they kind of convert over to your side. If you control the most nobles, you win. But in this one, if you kill the king and his heirs, you win. If the Scots crown a king and you can kill him, you're done. You insta win as well. I really, really liked Hammer of the Scots. It's so good.
So maybe we need to play it.
We definitely do. Like, people are like, oh, Hammer of the Scots is amazing. It is.
It is.
Like, the hype for this is real. It was so good. It was just so fun.
Yeah.
You know how these games, it's just fun.
Oh yeah, I love
Just
those
so fun.
block war games.
Yeah.
Always a good time.
Hammer of the Scots lived up to the expectations that people had put on it. I've played now 15 games of this, and I have won 4. I'm very bad at this game.
We need to play this one too.
I'm very bad at this game.
It's a 2-player game, right?
Yes, and it is this abstract little game. I think I'm finally, like, getting it in a way where, like, I can proactively try to have a strategy in this, but still, like it.
And you played this on Rally the Troops,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So is Rally the Troops the same one that has Space Empires?
No.
What one's
Space
that?
Empires, I believe, is on...
Because I played that quite a bit.
that is on... Oh, what is it called?
I'm drawing a blank. I have it.
That's
I
the
have
one,
an
that's
account.
the one on Steam, I believe.
Is it?
I'm happy to be wrong about that, though.
Okay.
But yeah, this is fun. I hope that Hollandspiel puts more of their games on there. That'd be great.
They have a lot of good games.
Wonderful company. And then I'm also in a couple games of PAX Premier and have played... Like, there was a good chunk of time where I had not scored a single point in PAX Premier on Rally the Troops, which is quite impressive. There are people who are very good at this game, and
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
But still very fun nonetheless.
I think we've played this, 3 or 4 times together?
Yes.
We used the bot at least once that I remember.
I don't remember the bot. Have
Yeah,
played the bot?
we used the bot, yeah.
Okay. Probably,
We
probably
played it
destroyed
without
us.
the bot, just 2-player. We've played it with the bot 2-player. We played it also at Buckeye Game Fest a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've played it one more time.
We have. We played it at your house with someone.
Brum?
I think it was Brum.
So we played it 4 or 5 times. I always enjoy it. I would love to own a copy of that.
Very, very nice
frankly.
game. So I think that's... Is that everything that I played? Yeah, probably. I'm sure there's other stuff, but that's... Oh, an unbelievable amount of Time of Crisis as well.
On Rally the Troops.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think
That's a great game.
I think
That's such a good game.
it's so good.
That's the game. That's one of the games we need to take.
We're
with us.
taking
because
Time
we
of
can.
Crisis
Is it
to
4-player or
another night.
5-player?
4.
Yeah, we're taking time because it's 2 hours.
Yes.
You can play it in 2 hours, and it's not too hard.
And if you had never played it, anyone can learn it.
Yeah.
It's really not that complicated.
Yeah.
So that's all the games that we played. Let's talk about
Really
some
quite a
games
few.
that we will play. So let's talk about our very slow-paced, ongoing...
So let me make this statement.
Yeah.
We are ending our Guns of August thing this month, no matter what.
Sure.
I'm not going to spend one more month not playing the games that we said we were going to play. So we're either going to play them
Yeah.
or we're moving on.
That's fine.
All right. I'm putting my foot down.
I'm fine with that. And you know what? We will still have played quite a number of games. So these are the 3 games that we're going to try to play for our Guns of August event. A couple of them didn't make it off the shelf, so we're just saying it. But I think this is a reasonable selection.
Yeah.
This is a 20-minute game. We can squeeze it at the end of either one of these.
Yeah.
And then this is
So we just
2
need
Fridays.
2 Fridays to get these played.
Now, we're going to Noble Night next week.
Yep. So
and
that cuts a
then-
Friday out.
So we've probably only got like one.
The only reason I say that is because we have so many other... I mean, we have games like Inferno and Plantagenet and North Africa 41. We just have so many games to play.
Yes.
It's insane. So, anyway, very excited about these. I really want to play them. I really, really do.
And you'll play Autumn and Sunset.
Yes, which is... Yep, so that's... let me... Yeah. Are you going to do any solo games this month? Because I'm going to do these 3. These are the 3 solo games because I've already played Autumn and Sunset.
I
like
imagine
10
I
times.
will.
Okay.
I think I might do
I
a
wanna do that one
glorious
too.
chance.
See, we're very uber organized here in the Player's Aid, but Autumn and Sunset, I've already played it like 10 times. But I'm going to play it as well this month. Stuka Leader, I have read the rules. I've reviewed everything. I'm not going to play the expansions, but I'm going to do at least 1 or 2 of the campaigns. This game looks really cool. I'm going to be honest. I
it's
like the Leader
huge and
series
chock
games.
full of stuff.
Very heavy. And then I also have that Others May Live from Hollandspiel that I'm going to play solo. Those are the 3 games that I'm going to tackle this month, and I look forward to it.
When we're done with these, we're going to be playing Warfighter Fantasy.
We're going to play that today.
That is the goal for the rest of the day. I have kind of punched have I punched everything? I think I bagged everything, and I punched
mine,
everything
yeah.
as well, yeah.
I put mine in trays and
Got all the bags together.
I'm
so
impressed that you actually got everything back because mine actually won't close it for some
that's 'cause
reason.
you still have this
Nope,
100-page book in
I
it.
threw that away.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, mine don't.
The combined rules, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I threw those away.
Yeah, mine all fits in. Oh, did you use a different tray to me? I used an Aegis tray.
I don't remember.
And then it was a lot of flattening out.
No, I get it. And maybe that's what I need to do better is flatten them out.
But yeah, we will play that.
This is brand new off of Kickstarter. I mean, we got it like last month.
Yes.
And I've unboxed it. We've looked at it. We've drooled over it. You have gold coins. You have like metal coins.
Yes, those are actually over here. Let
Those
me
are
grab
so
those
gorgeous.
so that you can have a peruse. They come in a little leatherette bag as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Totally unnecessary, but really awesome.
I mean, if that's not bling, whoa! If that's not bling, I don't know what bling is.
Look at little golds and
That's
silver
amazing.
and coppers.
Wow, pretty dope.
Look at those
Pretty dope.
coins. Oh no.
You know, I'm going to say it right here because I know a lot of people. DVG gets a bad rap, I think, a lot. In my opinion, right? Sometimes their art isn't the best. We comment on that.
Yeah.
I wish they used more original art, not just
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, and I know they have trouble sometimes with those rule books, but we've never not been able to play their games. You understand what I'm saying? We've always figured them out, and it typically is because you just got to understand what you're looking at. But I feel like people give them a rough time, and I think they do put out really good games.
And I think
particularly Warfighter.
we've nosed through a lot of this Warfighter fantasy stuff. Some of the artwork in the fantasy box is really, really good.
It is, yeah.
And so
Yeah, maybe they're improving that.
It's making good fantasy art. That to me looks better on a card than like a mugshot of someone in like a PMC, you know?
Sure.
So
Yeah, true.
I think it's easier to make that look nice.
So that's the games we're playing this month. And I'm telling you, Guns of October is not going to become Guns of October.
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
We're not doing Guns of Halloween.
Yeah, we are not. We need to move on. We got other games to play. So anyway,
But yes. All in all, I'm looking forward to a lot of the stuff that we're going to do, though.
no doubt. I'm looking forward to our trip to Noble Knight, frankly.
I think that's going to be really fun and also something unique. We've never done anything quite like that before.
Because we're meeting up with one of the designers of Vijayanagara, which is one of the games in the Irregular Conflict series from GMT. He's going to show us the game. We're going to play it. We're probably going to do an interview with him. I'd like to review the game while we're sitting there playing, or at least talk about it like a first impression. I think we're going to play 2 or 3 other games.
Yeah.
We're going to unload a carload of games and just have a good time.
Have a nose around.
Yeah,
See what's going
I'm
on.
excited. So we'll be making multiple videos, I think, in the car and on the way and there and on the way back and that kind of thing.
Yes.
It'll be fun. It'll be grand.
What have we got going on the Kickstarter?
Yeah, Kickstarter. So one that I wanted to talk about from Postmark Games is called the Battle Card series. So these are designed by David Thompson and Nils Johansson, and they are literally like one sheet print and play. You're not going to get any components. So you're going to print these off. They're going to be PDFs, and they're just simple 5 to 10 minute kind of war games. They use dice as men, and you have to do different things. There's a Market Garden one. There's a Malaya one. There are 5 or 6, and they're coming out as a print and play Kickstarter. That supposedly is going to launch on September the 19th. I am working with the 2 of them on an interview. I just need to get it finalized. So that should be pretty cool. Also on Kickstarter currently is Scope Panzer from Draco Ideas. It is their very light combat game. So this is tank-on-tank combat.
Is it like a card
World War
game?
II. It is a card game. It uses terrain, cards, and you have a very interesting combat system where range is taken into account. You have to pull the right cards, and that's how you fight.
And I
kind of
believe
interesting. I have an interview on the blog.
That's part of a small series of games.
It is. There's Scope Stalingrad, Scope
There's a
U-boat.
submarine, right?
Yep. So that's currently on Kickstarter. Starting next week is an expansion for Onus, which we have Onus Trajanus. We are going to play that this year.
And that's like the base game. It's a tactical.
I think there's another base before Onus
there is?
Trajanus.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But this expands Onus Trajanus. So it's called Onus Under the Eagle, which is based on Simon Scarrow's historical fiction books based on Emperor Claudius and his invasion of Britannia in like AD 46. So it has a historical fiction where there's a bunch of characters. Those characters are included in the game. And it's a miniatures game where they use little cards. So you don't have miniatures. It looks really fun. Very interesting, very unique.
Is it played on a board?
It is. Yeah, it's played on a board. So you have your units and you move those units. Just like you would a miniature, you even have rulers. You just don't have miniatures. So it's kind of unique and different. But that Under the Eagle, and that kickstarts sometime next week. The other ones that I was Warfighter Vietnam.
Oh, yes.
So from Dan Versen Games, that one's starting to come to a close.
Have a lot of hope for that.
Well, it just looks really good.
Right?
So those are the 3 or 4 that I'm aware of. There's always more out there that I
there's always a lot.
am working on or don't necessarily know everything about. But yeah, there's a lot of I think next month there's quite a few Kickstarters that are upcoming. So it's always an opportunity to get a good game at a reasonable price.
Yes.
Because you always and then you get some stretch goals and other stuff that you can't necessarily get unless you pay more. So
now what we'll do...
Want to talk about these dice?
Well, let's have a quick word from our sponsor, Noble Knight Games. So thank you very much to Noble Knight Games for sponsoring this video. But yes, let's talk about these, because I also very...
Yeah, so these are custom six-siders.
Look at those. Cav,
Pavens.
And they're MVA dice.
They just have symbols on them, right? So we're just how cool is that? Ooh, I just rolled 2 6s and 2 1s. So in endurance, that would have canceled out, and I would have had no successes.
But yeah, Noble Knight is so great because you can get almost anything on there. Like sometimes I buy war games on there. Sometimes I look at RPG stuff.
Yeah,
we bought a set of D10,000s
from
them.
Hackmaster.
For Hackmaster, so it's 4 D10s, each of which have all the numbers on them. Picked up some faction dice, so I'm gonna, in things like Silver Bayonet, which I got back here.
Oh yeah, these are all...
Right, that goes, at least those kind of go in there. But
and they're great looking, and I want to say these were they like $13?
Yeah,
13
dice. $14 a piece, which...
Pretty nice.
Like, yes, do you need that in a game? Not necessarily, but sometimes you want to treat yourself.
But I was looking on the back of them. I'm like, yeah, I'd like some Romanian and some Polish and some Italian. Thank you very much.
And this is just like...
These are Flames of War.
Yes, so Flames of War is a line of miniatures, but they also do lots of custom dice, and they have a bunch of like Cold War ones as well. Which, I'm going to play a lot of Cold War games, but sometimes you can kind of push those into other games of that period.
I enjoy custom dice. They're fun.
They
make a difference. They make a difference.
They're just fun.
I'm going to be honest.
And when you're playing a game, especially a long game, and you're going to roll a bunch of dice, it's just a fun little extra thing.
Playing Verdun would have been so much better had we had a whole bunch of French dice and a whole bunch of German custom dice. Now, we have German custom dice, but not necessarily...
Not the correct ones.
World War I German.
But that's why I put in those light blue and those gray dice in there.
They were cool, but it would have been cooler to have.
Yeah, at least, because I have an unconscionable amount of dice back here that you can't see. I always try to get at least color-specific dice.
Sure. You're a weirdo. When we play Here I Stand, we have those colored dice, right?
And that's Mike has all those
Mike
dice.
has all those. Habsburgs are yellow and...
Papacy's like a purple.
It fits.
It fits. It just feels right.
And when you have the Pope bless your dice and you roll 7 5s and 6s out of 12 dice and destroy the Ottoman horde in the East.
But imagine if you'd been using the wrong color dice.
It wouldn't have. It would have felt terrible. Wouldn't have been cool.
So yeah, very grateful to Noble Knight for their sponsorship of the Player's Aid.
Yeah.
We're going up there. You'll see video content from kind of their headquarters up there. So I'm looking forward to that trip.
Fitchburg, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that is
Never been there.
That is as far away from us as WBC is.
It is 6 hours.
Just in the other direction.
Crazy.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
I really not necessarily know what to expect other than we're going to have a blast.
We're going to have a good time. That's all that matters.
So, on to the main kind of topic.
The main event.
Of today's video, which
Keep talking. I'm going to
you have
move these
already
to the
seen
ground.
from the thumbnail and the video description. We're going to talk about coin games today. What we will not be doing is doing a ranking of our coin games in this video. We will be doing it
In another video.
but that will be released separately, because otherwise this is going to be in like 3 hours long.
We talked about it, and we could have done it, and we even talked about, let's just do our top 3 or top 4, and I'm like,
No.
let's just do a separate video,
Yeah, we'll
because
do
it's been years since we've
And it would take me
done-
like 48 hours to upload.
Yeah,
because it's so big.
Yeah,
It's,
this video is already like an hour. We're going on 45 minutes.
that'll
right?
be great. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through the coin series, kind of start to finish, and then some extras at the end, and just kind of discuss what it offers you, what it's like, the topic, how things different, and maybe we'll talk about the evolution of the system as we go along.
Yep.
Because the coin system is one of those games that looks like very approachable to people who are non-war gamers.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it's a dudes on a map game.
It definitely is a bridge for traditional Euro gamers to come on over into wargaming.
Yeah.
And at least dip your toe. Now, many people out there are going to complain, well, it doesn't have counters. It does have counters, just not unit counters. Its units are represented by cubes, cylinders, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
But it definitely is a bridge. There's no doubt.
Yes. Yeah, and they're also eye-catching. When you see
Yep.
one of these on a table,
Beautiful.
people stop and they look. And most non-war gamers do not stop and look at like la bataille that's going on.
No.
They're like, ugh. Whereas like this is like, it looks like something that they're familiar with, and so much more metal to it. But also, these games, the coin series, offer a significant amount to experienced war gamers as well. Yeah, it can act as a bridge, but also like, I love playing them still.
Yep.
So, the first one we're going to talk about, Andean Abyss. Volume 1, first one in the series, designed by Volko Ruhnke.
Came out in 2011. Is that right?
Something like that.
Okay. And it had a second printing.
This is the second edition from 2018.
Okay.
But I don't...
I want to say it was.
You know what someone said? Someone said that there is a code on the back of these
That you can
tells
tell.
you when it was. They said there's a little 4-digit code, and that was an indication of when it was originally released.
Well, we can't find the code.
No.
But anyway,
You'd have to be smart for that.
around 2010, 2011
Yeah.
was when
This is the
when
first
this
one.
came out.
So this is the conflict for the heart of Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a government faction.
This is basically Narcos.
Narcos is like a tiny part of this.
I know, but
yes.
in Narcos, you saw the government, you saw the AUC, you saw the cartels.
You even saw FARC in it as
Yeah,
well.
you did. You saw those things.
Yes.
And it was kind of cool.
It's
Now
very
that I love the series and system, watching that, I was like, oh, that's pretty neat.
So like when I play this, I put on the Narcos soundtrack,
There you
and
go.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Lots of salsa music and
yeah,
nice
it's
theme.
it's great. So to start with, what does COIN mean? What does that stand for? It's an acronym for counterinsurgency. CO counter IN insurgency. And so the thesis
And that's a military term, right?
Yes.
It's not a term that Volko made up for this game. It's
like an intelligence term. Yeah.
counterinsurgency is a real thing, and they call it COIN. It's something that governments do all over the world. The British have done it. Everyone's done it to try to contain and control revolution and insurgency in modern society.
Yeah,
right?
and at a very broad level, you're looking at some kind of government or controlling very large faction, and you're trying to kind of keep down insurgents, and the insurgents are trying to kind of spread themselves and spread their ideologies or messages or politics and subvert that controlling power. And so in all of these games that we're talking about, there is at least some element of that.
Yeah.
The COIN series uses a card initiative system. You flip a card, and at the top it tells you who goes first and who goes second.
It's specifically called a card-assisted mechanic,
Yes.
but you're right. The cards serve two purposes. One is to set the turn order at the top, and then the other is to have events that go off for
It's an option that
whoever
can be
chooses
chosen.
that. You don't have to take them. Sometimes we always tell new players, please don't take every event all the time.
You will lose if you do that.
You will lose because ultimately you're not making progress on what you're really supposed to be doing.
The events are usually,
They're good,
they can be situationally.
yeah, or they can be punishing. Like you can take one and really take a base or two off. And you know how hard it is to get a base out.
And sometimes you need to do that.
Yep.
But a lot of the times, those are shiny objects that distract you from what you should
Look
be doing.
over here, cool events.
The other kind of key facet of coin games that runs through all of these is that there is this kind of the turn, I don't know what you call it, like the turn matrix
Sequence
where
of play.
I'm going to choose this particular action or set of actions to do, and then that will lock in the next player to have to follow on with this little flow chart of what they can do. And so you can limit people's capabilities depending on how much you limit yourself.
Such a very underappreciated part of the game, and also such an under-focused on part of the game. We play a lot of these games multiplayer with some with new players, and I'll give them, but even some veteran players, I'm like, man, you just can't go whole hog and do op and special activity every single time.
Yeah, because you allow the other player following you to just
do
like
whatever
do a whole
they
bunch of
want.
that stuff. And if you take the events all the time, that's fun for you. But then this other person's just going ham on the board, and you're like,
Yeah, they're going to spend their resources to take 5 or 6 actions that are going to get them in a position to win. I just think the sequence of play and the initiative order are such a big part of these games. And the thing I really enjoy about it is it has changed throughout the series a little bit. They've done it. The first 4 games in the series were designed as, really the first 6 games of the series were designed as 4 players, 4 different factions, 2 aligned, or friendly. I always call them friendly, but it's like friendly in quotation marks. But they were designed kind of in a similar way. And then I think with Colonial Twilight, which was number 7, right? Am I right in that? By Brian Train? Yeah, I've got it right here. Number 7. It's a 2-player game. And some of the other factions are like abstracted into events and tracks, but it's a 2-player game, and that initiative system really looks very, very different.
no.
Huh?
Yeah, it's very different.
Setup-wise.
Oh, yeah.
It serves the same purpose.
I meant to say yes, not no.
Yeah, that's okay. That's funny. Is it your tooth?
I don't know. No, it's very different,
Yeah.
but functions equally as interesting.
Yeah, it's the same concept. You're trying to choose what you need to do and somehow minimize the ability of your opponent to do what they really want to do. One of the maxims I have always believed in any card-driven, card-assisted game where you have turns and a selection of actions that you can take, there are actions that you want to take, and there are actions that your enemy wants to take. If you can do a good job of taking what you want, but minimizing what they can do, you're going to win more than you.
Yes, without
That doesn't
question.
guarantee it, but you're not able to do what you want to do. And then more often than not, in card-driven or card-assisted, these kind of games, you end up spending time undoing what your opponent just did. So you're not, once again, gaining ground on what you're simply trying to, he got too much, I'm going to take away from him. And to me, that's one of the beautiful things about this entire series is, and it borrows things from other card-driven games. There's a lot of labyrinth in this, a lot of the same concepts. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Oh, I just found the code. So it's 2012, and the
20
reprint was in 2018, which indeed it was.
Okay. So it's 12/12-18.
Yeah,
What's
so
the
12 is the year, and
Okay.
12 is either the week or the month of the year specifically in which
Okay.
it was originally released.
Okay, nice. Kind of unique. Well, I'll look at
So
every single one of
This
them.
is 2013, I believe September, and this is the 2015 reprint. 2015.
Oh, wow, there's a cool... We
Look
just
at
cracked
us,
the code.
frickin' nerds.
Wow.
But yes, Andy and
So this one
Abyss-
was put out in 1920.
So that's 2019,
I know, I'm just kidding. In the 20th week?
and it... Oh, yes, so that must be
Okay.
weeks then.
Okay,
And
so
then
that
it-
would have been like June.
And it doesn't have a suffix because it's not a reprint. That's the original print.
Okay, that's interesting.
So yeah, well,
So this is 2015 and August. Okay, interesting.
no, 8 is the week of the year.
The week, yeah, sorry.
That's what we're saying.
I'm an idiot. Total idiot. So, thank you. You figured out the code.
Hey, look at that.
And also, I appreciated that you said no when you meant to say yes to me. That's pretty funny. I think that's just part of our competition. You have to be contrarian.
I meant to say no, but yes. But no. What? So, Andy and Abyss, this is like the first one. This is like original coin. You can't go wrong with this. Especially if you've watched Narcos and you really like it. It's fun.
And we've played this multiple times. I just like its, to me, straightforwardness and somewhat simplicity. And it's not simple, but it's like, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I really feel like I do.
Like, we'll talk about some of these other games have a lot of extras in them. There's no extras in this. Like, you have your cards, you're trying to do your thing, you're trying to build towards your victory conditions and stop other people doing theirs.
Yeah.
And so it's excellent in what it does. So let's talk about the next one. We're going to move on to Cuba Libre.
I love Cuba Libre.
Which is Volume 2.
Such a great game.
So this one is from 2013. This is the 2015 reprint.
There you
Look
go.
at that.
Wow.
So, Cuba Libre, again, 4 players. This is the Cuban Revolution, as you may well have guessed from the title and the front cover. So you have a government faction, and then you have is it 29 or 26 July?
July 26.
July 26, and you have the
syndicates.
The syndicates.
And then the
yellow guys.
Isn't it AUC?
No.
AUC is in.
Yes. It is Directorio.
Directorio. DR.
So in this one, this is a much smaller.
And you've played this one 50 times and you didn't know the name of all the factions?
No, I played Andy and Abyss 50 times.
Oh, okay, good point. Duh.
But
I was just trying to be contrarian.
That's fair. No.
Yes.
This one's much smaller. Physically, the map is much smaller.
I think there's like 13 spaces on the board.
Yeah, there's far fewer spaces, and so regularly this is referred to as like an introductory coin. This could be your first one, and part of that is that this is still equally as straightforward as Andy and Abyss. They didn't add a whole bunch extras onto it, really, although there are some changes. But what you have is a much smaller space in which to make decisions.
It limits the overwhelmingness of, oh, there's 25 spaces I could go into. Where do I go? Here you have 13, and really only 4 or 5 of them can you play in.
Yeah, and so that's much more approachable to newer players, where you're like, cool, I'm going to build a base here, and I'm going to rally in this space next door.
Yeah.
Kind of done. As opposed to like Andy and Abyss, it's like, this is a big map, and you can do a lot, but what should I do? Cuba Libre may be a bit more straightforward from that standpoint as well.
I would not say it's simpler. I think I've heard people say, oh, this is simpler. It is the same system.
It is almost identical.
Yeah, it uses the same schedule of operations and special activities. The asymmetry's there. It's just the map's a little bit smaller.
And it's significantly smaller.
Yeah, it is.
And it's
As
also
compared to Fire in the Lake, it's really small.
And it's also linear as well.
Yeah.
So like if you're trying to march across the island, you can only go one way.
You can kind of visualize it. Yeah.
And so
the thing I do enjoy about these first 2 entries is the syndicate and the cartels.
Yes.
They have in this one it's called like cash. What's it called?
It's cash. And then in the other one it's shipments, I believe.
So they have these things that are a value in the game to encourage negotiation and swapping.
Yeah, you can use them to bribe people with.
So in Cuba Libre, I've seen it done so many times where the syndicate goes, hey, I'm going to give you this coin thing, not counterinsurgency, but the cash, but I want you to not bother me in this area, or you need to kill that government guy. Kill those 2 cubes so I can control it.
Yeah.
And that player has to say, okay, that's a very valuable, because I think in this one you can act out of turn.
Yeah, so those you can use it to take a limb up when you have done a limb up.
Yes.
But you can also, if you get to the end of the round, you can trade it in for resources as well.
And that is also very powerful, because some of these are hard to get resources.
Can you turn them into bases in this one?
I can't remember.
In Andy and Abyss, you can turn them into a base, which is
so it's a
strong.
very valuable commodity, and the game really encourages you to use it in that way. I have played with a lot of new players, and I'm trying to tell them, hey, cartels and syndicate, you need to use that, man.
Because you can hoard them all yourself.
You
and
can.
Get rich. You can.
And there's good benefits to that.
But there are times where you're like, hey, man, you could have won the game if you'd have bribed this person early to do this thing for you.
So I feel like in these two, there's the most of that. I always think there's negotiation, but in these two, that it's a physical asset that you actually possess and are able to generate and can utilize to bribe or cajole or get someone to do what you want. I find that to be one of the best things in the system is the table talk, negotiation, working with your enemy, working against your friend, working with your friend, saying no to your friend when you mean yes. I mean, all those things, it's right there, and I think it really shines in Cuba Libre and Andean Abyss.
If you've never played a coin, this is where you want to start if you don't know. You can always just pick a theme.
Yeah, I think
you want to do.
I think we always do say pick the theme that you're the most interested in because that's going to allow you to enjoy it and connect to it.
Yes.
If you're a World War I fan, you're not going to play a World War II game more often than not. You may occasionally, but pick the World War I game that you really know you're going to enjoy. So if you're a Roman fan, you've got Falling Sky. Go for it. If you're an American Revolution, Liberty or Death, go for it.
So let's get up a distant plane. That's where we're at. Volume 3.
This is one that I actually absolutely love this one.
And so the first one is Volko, the second one is Volko and Jeff Grossman, I believe.
Yes.
This one is Brian Train.
And Volko's name is on it, I think mainly because he reviewed or looked at it.
Yeah, he was like kind of the executive producer.
But this covers the war in Afghanistan, and it's a little closer to people's memories, right? So it can create a visceral response to it. We've had a lot of people say, I can't play that.
Yes.
And I totally get that. Brian is a brutal designer. What I mean by that is he takes the elements from the history and he includes those into the game. So there's things like IEDs. I mean, it's all here, right? You don't pull punches.
Absolutely. And you don't pull punches in any coin game.
No, that's true.
But this one is like a bit more real for some of the people who are playing this, I think.
And in this one, I felt like the 4-player dynamic was very interesting. There are the warlords. Aren't they called the warlords?
Yes.
Then you got the Taliban, you got the U.S. I can't remember what the other faction is.
It's the government.
The government. I felt like the interactions that we've had when we've played this one are very different than the interactions in a lot of the other games. I feel, for instance, I'll give you an example of a memory that I have. I was playing the U.S. when we played it with
we played with Dean.
Dean and his friend at Buckeye Game Fest, and like I was trying to be supportive. And they're not new to coin; they're just probably not as experienced as us, and that's always the difficulty.
But we were doing really well. I was the government in that game.
Yeah, it's true. And I think I decided because I was assessing the map at the time that I knew a coup was upcoming. What is the interim in this one? Is it called a coup?
Yeah.
Propaganda.
Propaganda.
All right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I assessed the board and I'm like, you know what? The U.S. has this option of calling the troops home. And it really bones everybody else because it takes away control more often than not from those that need control. And I did that, and that prop card came up the next turn, and it's like it ended the game because I played as the U.S. I supported the government the whole time, right? We were working together, and we were kicking some butt, and we were doing good.
And then he betrayed me.
But when you see the opportunity where your faction can win, you gotta jump on it. And that's what I think is great also about these Coin Series games. Every single faction will have a moment like that.
Yeah, and
every single one.
You can see it where you're about 7 cards into like a propaganda round, and you're like, all right, this is coming up soon.
Yep.
And so then you see people just like
changing strategy,
like just going so hard on their victory conditions, like trying to shoot the moon. Because if you mess it up, it's probably going to come back to bite you.
Yeah.
But and it's a great little thing that happens in these games.
But this one I've really enjoyed. We've probably played this one 3 or 4 times. I would like to get this one back to the table. But I think it's not made for everybody. I'm going to be
I think
straightforward.
Thematically, that's the case. But outside of the theme, mechanically, it's still quite similar
Yes.
to the first two in the series, where you have a government with their cubes driving along the roads.
This, I think, is more complex than the other two.
That's definitely the case.
This one
Definitely
adds
the
some
case.
complexity to it that just makes it a little more crunchy. I felt like Andy and Abyss and Cuba Libre were much more straightforward. This one, you got to think about it a lot more. Partly that's why I really enjoy it.
But yeah, really
Great game.
really good game that shot up in my estimation because we played it 2-player and it was fine. And then when we played it 4-player the first time, it was like, oh yeah, really good.
And I would say that about the coin series.
Max the players.
They're really meant to be played 3 to 5 play. There are none that have 5, but there's one coming up that potentially has 6. I don't know where that stands. Syria, right?
Who knows?
But 4 players is where it's at. That's what it's designed to do. That's what it's supposed to be. Because when you play 2-player, you have the 2 aligned faction, and it's just not the same.
No.
It's just not that you're really working together because you're winning together. The other way, you're not winning together.
You lose the table talk. You lose the fun of not knowing when you're going to get stabbed in the back because you don't stab yourself in the back. It's not the same.
So A Distant Plane is fantastic. If you haven't played it, I recommend it. Now, this is our favorite. This is my favorite.
Yeah.
I think this is
Fire in the
your
Lake
favorite
is
as well.
Volume 4, and this is Meeting of the Minds. Both Volko and Mark Herman designed this one, and it's incredible, right?
I think that's the only way I can describe it. It is absolutely delicious.
I think it's also the biggest of the coins.
Yeah, the map is
Map-wise,
huge.
it's huge.
The map has, you probably almost have 25 spaces there, including LOCs. Actually, including LOCs and cities, you probably have 40 spaces. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
There's
6.
30 spaces, not including LOCs.
Okay, so there's probably
maybe plus or minus
40 when you throw LOCs. Because LOCs in this game are really, really, really important. And they're very different than the LOCs. What were they called in Cuba Libre? Economic centers?
Those are economic centers.
Yeah, so a little different. Serve a similar purpose. But these LOCs
there's a
are
transport component
so
to this
very
one.
interesting because the VC can sabotage, and the NVA can as well, sabotage them, and that stops the US and the ARVN from being able to kind of move
Drive
all
up and
over the
down.
place.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
Yeah, Fire in the Lake, it's the Vietnam War in a box. So you have the US, you have the ARVN,
Aligned.
you have the VC, and then you have the NVA.
Aligned.
And this is almost like a convention staple for us at this point. We'll take it to every convention we go to, or
I would say
someone will have it.
in the last 4 or 5 years, we've played this 10 times at conventions.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's big and it is complex, especially some of the factions. There's a lot of stipulations to some of the things that you're trying to do, and making sure that you set those up to have success can be difficult. So a lot of people are intimidated by this one as a result.
And I'm going to be honest, I think you should be.
I think that's fair.
I think if you're going to go into this, that's fine. You can get it, because we got it.
But it was hard.
But it took a while. It took multiple plays. I even had to go and do the solo bots. I'm talking like 5-6 years ago.
when they were flowcharts and not
when they were
cards,
flowcharts to try to figure, okay, that's what they really want to try to be doing. But this is not for the faint of heart. I'm just going to say that.
No, but I'm glad that we've had enough experience with this where we take this to cons, and I've played this with a number of new players, and that's wonderful to be able to share this and alleviate some of that angst that people
and
have.
they can pick it up. They just need someone to help and guide them.
And
that's good.
Always easier to have someone teach you a game than learning from the rules.
Yeah.
Without question. Yeah, it's
I
incredible.
love it. This is my favorite one, and probably in my top 3 or 4 war games of all time.
Yes,
So I absolutely love
without
it.
question.
And it has 2 expansions, right? One that's out, Fall of Saigon. We've played that. We played that at WBC. Very cool, very different. End of the war. It's just it's really the NVA versus the ARVN. The US is kind of on the sidelines, and the VC are kind of on the sidelines, and that's cool. The next one they have coming out is called Sovereign of Discord. So it's a prequel. So it kind of takes the side of the Viet Minh and the French.
That's like 1956.
Yeah, like 56 to 65. So that I'm looking forward to that. And those are designed by Steven Rangazis, who is, in my opinion, a rising star. He did British Way, and
which is incredible.
he's a very interesting designer. But Fire in the Lake is a really great game. Just be aware you're going to have to put a little time and effort into it.
So that was Volume 4, and we've got Volume 5, which is Liberty or Death.
So, quick story. This was our first coin game.
Yes, it was.
So I saw, when we started really doing the blog in 2015, 2016, I saw pictures of this on Facebook and Twitter, and I was like, what is this gorgeous looking game with this fantastic board and then these red, white, and blue pieces all over it? I'm like, what the hell is that? So I did research and I'm like, Liberty or Death, the American Revolution, the American Insurrection is what it's called, but this deals with the American Revolutionary War. And players can be one of four factions, right? The two aligned are the British and the Indians, and I am going to call them the Indians. They're called that in the game. The other side is...
the French and the Patriots.
Yeah, sorry. I lost my mind there for a moment. French and the Patriots, and they're aligned. No. But this one, to me, is so unique because the insurgent factions, the Indians, are very different than the others. They still have their units underground. They still do some of the raiding and the... what's it called?
Do that warpath.
Warpath. But they have some very unique and interesting mechanics that really make them rely on the British. So they have one where they can beg for resources. I'm not sure any other... Arvin kind of does that, right?
They just take
They
the
just take it. It's
resources.
just
not begging,
patronage.
they just take it.
But the Indian, it's like they force them to deal with the British to get those resources. The British can say no. They still ultimately get like one resource. But the British can actually give them a couple of resources, and they should because they are working together. But the way the Indians can kind of trade with that is their warpath ability, where they are literally on their turn guiding British regulars and Tory cubes into a new area, setting them up to then attack or skirmish. So it's a tit for tat. And I think the French and the Patriots kind of have a similar relationship. I found the interaction between the four factions in this one to be very, very unique and really created, in my opinion, one of the best settings. Fire in the Lake is, but I really enjoy this one. I really enjoy it.
This is easily the best looking map in the coin series.
Oh, there's no doubt. Terry Leeds did the board, and it's just
beautiful
gorgeous.
to play with.
Yep.
This is also the first in the coin series that has a die roll in it.
It does, yeah, for combat.
All the other combats so far have been deterministic.
Yep.
You might roll a die to get under a number, but the amount of hits you do is, I'm going to kill 2 guys.
Yep.
Or like, I do an assault and I kill X amount of guys because I have X amount of cubes.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I've got X amount of guys and I roll a die and add that to that. You do the same thing, and there's a differential is how many guys die.
Yep.
Something like that.
And it's very attritional too, and I think that's part of what the American Revolutionary War was about. You never saw 2 huge armies come together and destroy each other.
Yeah, you never wipe someone's stack in this game.
You kind of attack, you kill a couple, wound some more, and then the rest run away. And that's the way this kind of works out with that die roll system. Very unique, very interesting, and I love the period.
But again, quite complex, some of the actions.
This one's a little more complex, I think, on the deeper end. Not as deep as Fire in the Lake.
But the complexity is like, hey, I want to take this particular action. It says like, it has to be in a space that has this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And then you do this, or this, or this, which includes this and this, if this and this.
Yep.
That's a lot to kind of assess very quickly.
To digest, yeah.
It's harder to memorize that.
The other thing with this one is that because of the time scale difference, like the recruiting for the Patriots, I'm trying to think of a good example. You literally are able to change militia into regulars, and then you can take those regulars that you just changed from militia, get rid of a couple of those and throw a base on. That's kind of rare.
Yeah, that would be like 3 actions
right.
in a different game.
But the time scale on this kind of allows that. It's just, now in other games you can you basically rally first and then later on you throw a couple away to add a base.
But like, I think about the NVA where it's like, first you put out the guerrillas.
Yeah.
Then on a subsequent turn, you turn the guerrillas into regulars.
Yeah. It takes 2 or 3 turns.
And then you can turn some of those into a base. It takes much longer.
Here it's kind of those couple of things in one turn.
Yeah.
But I love it. I think it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite.
Very, very cool game.
And I really enjoyed this one.
And works well as a 2-player game as well.
Yes, I would agree. We've played it many a time.
So that's
2-player.
5. We've got 6 is Falling Sky. So this is back to Volko Ruhnke designing.
Yep.
Because that
And
one was
his
Harold
son.
Buchanan.
Yep, Harold and his son,
What is his
Andrew.
son's name?
Andrew.
So this one is the...
Gosh.
Yeah, right. The Gallic Revolt against Caesar.
What
So
the
it's Rome going up against the Gauls. Rome's a freaking powerhouse.
Yeah.
They got their big old troops, and they just charge up and kind of Hulk smash everyone. But they can only get so far,
Yeah.
and then it's all of a sudden they're overstretched.
Yeah.
And then you have all these other factions fighting away. There's like a bot for the barbarians.
Which are almost like a fifth faction.
Yeah, they
Right,
function similarly.
There are 3 kind of insert the Belgi, the Adui, and the Averni,
The Averni.
right? And then there's the Romans, and then the 5th kind of bot faction is the Saxons, basically.
The Germanic tribes,
The Germanic tribes. And there's an expansion for this one called Ariovistus, where you can actually play as the barbarians, which is kind of cool.
Yes.
The thing I have enjoyed, now, I'm going to be honest, this is not one of our favorites.
No.
I don't think we have connected with it as much as others. I've seen people online that are like, this is the best coin.
This is the favorite of a lot of people.
It is.
Because there's only really 2 ancient coin games.
Yep.
And that's one of the big divergences from this one.
By the way, that's the ancient symbol, whereas this is the modern symbol. See the difference?
The little triangle.
I kind of think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But yeah.
But lots of people really, and I've
Oh, I
played
love it.
this a couple of times solo, and I enjoyed it way more solo than I did with the 2 of us.
Interesting.
Because I think I learned a lot more. But it's a very challenging game. We have played this with our non-gaming friends. I think Matt hated it. I think Tim didn't like it and liked Liberty or Death better because he played that with us as well. But they were able to grok it and actually play it. I think Matt ended up winning with the Belgi.
That wouldn't surprise
Yeah,
me. That's a Matt kind of thing to do, to
Yeah.
win and to have hated it.
Yeah. This is an interesting game, though. I think there's a lot to like here. I think we need to give this one more time, and I think it potentially would become... because we love Pendragon. That's another
Yes.
Ancients one. We love it.
So one of the things that this adds is that the combat resolution system in this one is very different and much more involved. There is this whole flow chart about
It is,
how
yeah.
you take losses and which types of units you take those losses on.
Yep.
And there's like leaders in this one that march around with your armies, and those give you special bonuses, and everyone's a bit different. I don't know. It didn't hit the same for me.
I would like to give this one some more time because I think it would start to click with us a little better. We've played it 3 or 4 times, and I just don't like it as much as some of the others. Now,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. The board's beautiful. The pieces are fantastic. When you have those big... And the cool thing is those Roman legions are huge.
They're massive.
The cubes are like twice the size. They feel twice the size, right? I feel like they are twice the size.
Yeah, look how big those.
I mean,
those are
they're
big old
just so
squares.
big. I just love it. I love the forts. This was the first one to include like a fort, not necessarily just a base. There's lots to like in this one. I just think we need to give it more time. I absolutely am not a fan of the cover art. I'm not sure what they were going for.
They were
Is
going
this
for
a
the world's darkest painting.
Is
I
this like a
guess.
Monet? I just, why we didn't do this on the front, I don't know. But I'm not going to question the minds over at GMT. I just don't understand why they did that.
But if you like Ancients, if you like Rome,
You're gonna
and
enjoy this
Gaul,
one.
This is the
You're
one
gonna
that you want
enjoy
to
it.
check out, because people who do love this
Yep,
game.
yep.
So you're going to have a good time with it.
Yeah,
Most likely.
I actually liked it. I think more than you did,
Yes,
and I
that's
think
fair to
we
say.
need to give it some more time.
That was 7. Now we're going to. No, that was 6. We're going to 7, which is Colonial Twilight.
and we've already kind of talked about Colonial Twilight, but it's
So this is
Algeria,
a two-player game.
two-player game only. You cannot. You can do the bots.
You know, one player, but
Yeah,
it's
but
two.
it's 2 only, 2 factions. Some of the other factions are kind of abstracted, as I mentioned, into tracks. There are multiple tracks on this one, which I thought was kind of cool. There's a border crossing track and like a security track, and this one I really enjoyed because it's brutal. The
Very
FLN,
tough.
the FLN just use terror like as a total weapon. It's like a cudgel that they're beating the French over the head with. And it doesn't pull punches. There are a lot of historical things that they refer to, and Brian doesn't pull punches. He just puts it out there.
Yeah, so we're back to Brian Train, right?
Yeah, Brian Train, you blew up a hotel, you did this, you did, and it's like, oh, when I use those terrors, I feel it because I look at those events. One of the, is it called pivotal events in this one? I'm trying to remember what they're called.
Probably. It's the equivalent of that, though, if it's not.
Yeah, so they have these pivotal events, and it's literally the one for the FLN is absolutely graphic. And I really have a lot of respect for this design because to me, it approaches that head on and really shows how terror can be used as a tool by these less powerful, less able factions in the game. Every other game has terror and sabotage and other things, but here I feel like it's visceral.
Yeah, it's like their primary course of action. This one, it's not necessarily my favorite, but that's because I like Coin as a 4-player experience.
Sure, and this is just 2.
And this is just 2, and so
it's still very good, though.
You lose a dynamic in the game that I love. Though.
Sure.
And so that's why it doesn't rank as highly as some of the other ones.
But if you've only got one other friend,
yeah,
this is a great game because you're going to be able to play it 2-player. It's made for that. This uses that special sequence of play and eligibility. Very unique.
And there's like, what, one other game on Algeria in modern gaming? So like...
I think they're both by Brian Train.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Now, not modern Algeria, but the Red Burnous that we talked about earlier.
Kind of like way
that's
before
also...
this.
But I love this one. I really enjoyed this one. I'd like to play it more. I got to find a friend that likes it. But...
So that's volume 7.
Got to find a friend first.
What's that like? So now we're going to go to volume 8. We're going to go back to Ancients, hence this little symbol, and we have Pendragon. Pendragon...
The Fall of Roman Britain.
Yes. This one's designed by Morgan Guillaume-Berthet, and this one is... I was very interested in this one's being designed because it's me homeland, and that was always something interesting to see.
Sure.
And it was similar because... You'd see pictures, and it was this great map with all these pieces on, and this one has like little castle fortification pieces in it.
It's very cool.
Gold. So
I love the booty. I know it's plunder. I call it booty because it's gold.
But look at these little
they're
fortress pieces in
really
here.
Great.
Right? It's an absolute, and it has like these gold for the plunder that you're gonna, and economic.
So in this one, it's so interesting because there's the government faction, then there's the Roman ducks, right, which are kind of the leftovers of the Roman Empire.
That's like the Roman military establishment.
Right. And then there's the 2
raiding factions.
Raiders, basically barbarians.
The Saxons and the... Is it the...
No, I can't.
Saxons, is it the Celts?
No.
Scotty.
We're idiots. We've played this one a ton too, which is hilarious.
So this one is a very significant divergence from
can't be more different
what you've experienced so far. A lot of the other coin games, the insurgent factions are trying to like control areas, build bases, do terror to kind of flip the hearts and minds of the people towards their side, things like that. Whereas in this one, the raiders are trying to land and take money and plunder, and then basically bugger off.
Yep.
And then you're going to leave some guys behind to try to convert them to war bands and settle. And then they're going to build their own little Saxon towns. And you're trying to like then, it's a very slow process to go and populate that stuff. And so those 2 factions aren't aligned in any way, but they function the same way, and they're just trying to just like come in and pillage the Great Britain and kind of take it for all that it's worth and destroy the whatever's left of the Roman Empire there.
The thing I really like about it uses an 8-sider for those the Scotty and the Saxons. Really like that. That's very unique. Has a very complex battle system.
Which is funny, because I hate that in Falling Sky.
But you love it in this one.
For some reason, I don't care.
I don't know. But I enjoy it in this one. I think it's very unique. It is very interesting and takes into account whether it's a hill fort or a, what's the other name?
There's a hill fort, there's a town, there's regular...
So there's all different results based on what's there.
And then there's like terrains.
Yeah, terrain is very unique.
Home terrain, depending on what faction you are as well.
Yep.
And so there's like 7 different types of pieces.
It is very complex and involved. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to understand that going into this one. You're going to have to go through example of battles a couple of times to really pick it up.
This says it's complexity 5 on the back of it.
Bullcrap.
And that's
it's more
kind
like
of
a 7
kind of a
or an
joke.
8.
Yeah.
The other thing I really enjoy about this one is the insurgents are not, you already said this, it's not really insurgency.
No.
So every other volume has that.
Yes.
Now, Morgane's sitting there probably screaming at me because she doesn't like when I say that. But it's true, and it doesn't make this any less of a coin series game than those that do have it. Because it still has underdog factions that are trying to overthrow the established government. And it's the same concept.
The insurgencies there, it just looks wildly different from the other volumes in the series.
Yeah.
And you don't have any of that support or opposition. You just have desperately taking the gold off of people, and then the Kiwitates and the Ducks are desperately trying to like rebuild and keep the economy going, and then the Kiwitates are trying to like stash that money in their own little coffers and build that up. And this game's wonderful because there is a very great arc to the game.
Yep.
No matter what happens in the game, you will have had this incredible story arc that is either like the complete, like, you know, everything's going to just get destroyed and it's the total collapse of this regime, or you might like have them be able to like withstand that, and it's this like attritional battle just beating off these raiders that are coming in. There's so much stuff that happens in this game, but it is very complex.
It is. There are even roads in this one, and those roads degrade over time.
As the government degrades.
I love it. I just think there's a lot of great depth to this one. We've played this. You've played it more than I have. I'm trying to think. With Mike, we've played it 2 or maybe twice. And then we played it twice. I don't know. I want to play this more, and I think we were planning on playing it at WBC. Did you play it at
I did. I played it with Mike at WBC. It was really, really good.
I was looking forward to that. Mike loves this one. Mike is our friend from St. Louis.
And he is an expert at the rules.
Yes.
And so that makes it much easier to kind of pick up and get into.
And he doesn't even like coin that much.
I think this is like the only one he really likes.
So anyway, Pendragon I think is fantastic. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It is also
stunning to
I do not like the cover art, but that's my opinion. It's the AI
it's a
CGI created. I just don't like it. But that's my opinion, right? It doesn't matter.
It sits on my shelf like this, so we never look at it.
But it's beautiful. The game is beautiful.
Yes,
when it's set up, it's
excellent.
huge and beautiful. Absolutely love it. Volume 9.
So Volume 9, we're getting into something, again,
huge paradigm shift
very different.
Here.
So this is Gandhi, Decolonization of British India. This is the first...
Volume 9, right?
So this is the first one that introduces non-violent factions. So the game starts with basically like the British Raj in control of a significant portion of the Indian subcontinent, and then it's all the different things that are arising. So you have like the Muslim League, I believe is what it's called, and then you have the actual opposition. What are they called?
Yeah.
The Revolutionaries, that's what it is. And then you also have the Congress, which is Gandhi and his non-violent kind of protest-based faction. So
it's been a while since we played this one.
Yeah,
we need to play it
We played
more.
it a couple times in person. I played this a few times on Vassal as well. But yeah, this is one I desperately want to play more on.
Well, I want to play it more because it is very unique. It is so different.
Nothing like it.
And a later version, People Power, kind of adopts some of the non-violent factions. And to me, it's just very interesting to see that concept. Here you're trying to get onto the rail lines and do protests and slow the government, the Raj down, and you have leaders, and there's just so many, and it's gorgeous. This
Really
is one of
good
the
to look on the map,
probably the second best map, and I don't know who did the art, but it's such a great job.
The map
Roger
art-
McGowan.
Map art is
Okay. And I think Canute does a lot of developing on these games as well, knows a lot about them.
But this was the non-violent factions. This are really cool because you've got a bunch of guys and they don't do anything until you get them out on the streets, and then so you start a protest and they all kind of flip up, and all of a sudden they control everything. And then it's just the Raj go in and round them up and arrest them,
put them in jail.
Because that's really tempting. But if you do that, everyone's going to be real mad about it.
Yeah.
And so you like hurt yourself in arresting them. And then this one also has the kind of the state of India. If the British use lots of restraint, they get a bit more leeway in what they can do. But if they go in super mega heavy-handed, everyone's really mad about it.
Yeah,
and so then they end up with they can do fewer things, basically.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of the game.
And so that part of it is quite complex, especially as the Raj is managing that and trying to kind of combat that. And what do you do? What don't you do? But a very unique game. And also,
so very different than the other games, too, which I think is a good thing.
And like many of the coin games, a piece of history that we don't play a lot of war games on.
No.
I think I have a couple of games about some of this stuff, but much later on.
Right.
Nothing that's in this time period. So that was also really cool to kind of experience. But yeah, desperately want to play more of this.
Oh, yeah. I actually really like this one. We have not had as many opportunities to play it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
All right, Volume 10, a very underrated title.
So
we have played this a couple of times and really enjoy it every time we break it out. In fact, we broke it out about 6 months ago with a friend that came.
All Bridges Burning.
Yeah, three-player game, and couldn't be any more different factions than they are, right?
And a totally different game.
Yeah.
This is, once again, a very big shift. Like, there are some things that are similar. It's like, I rally to put some guys out, or like, I'm trying to control an area by having the most guys. But this is much more of like, I want to say like a historical simulation than some of the other ones, where it's a bit more sandboxy. Because in this one, you have like, the whole kind of first half of the game is your build-up, and then you go to war. Like
with the Germans.
The Germans will land troops and they will move and fight the Russians as the Russians are coming in from one side and the Germans from the other. And all of that build-up that you did was like getting out these like military trains and getting like artillery support asset units or putting out fortifications. And you will drag those along with your units into a space, and they will be combat modifiers. Those are DRMs, which is nothing else like that.
Yeah, very important also because the Germans are uber powerful.
Yes.
They really are. I want to add one comment to what you said. It's the Reds versus the Whites, right? Yes. Then there's a third faction called the Moderates, the Blue faction. So there's red, white, and blue here. I've played the Moderates a couple of times, and totally different experience to any coin game I've ever played.
Yeah.
They are not necessarily an insurgent faction, but they aren't going to go out and fight. All they're trying to do is spread their propaganda, and that's how they win. They get resources, and they spread their propaganda. And it's so unique. The other thing I really like about this game, which is a complete paradigm shift, is insurgents are typically underground.
Yes.
Meaning they're turned
they're
symbol down. In this one, you want them face up.
Yes.
They have to be available to kind of run out and do stuff. And it's just so unique.
And that's because in this one, they're not really insurgents.
No, they're not.
In this one, it's like you've got like the military cubes, which are like the fighting units.
The Reds, the Russians, and the German units, basically.
And the like the guerrilla cylinders in this are more like they're just people. And when you activate them, that's people going out and being proactive for their political cause. Yeah. They're not necessarily going out and it's like, oh, they were secretive and they snuck in and then they set off a car bomb.
Yeah.
That's every other game.
Yeah.
In this one, it's like, okay, how many people going out canvassing a neighborhood? These people are actually doing it. And so the moderate faction goes around and they're trying to turn them off, right?
Yeah.
To flip them underground, to stop them canvassing.
Yeah.
So that then they now don't count for control. Yep. They can't go out and do anything useful for their factions. So those factions have to then go and flip them back up again
it's so
before they
interesting.
can perform actions.
Yeah.
It's a totally different style of game.
The other thing I enjoy about this one is you have the political display where you're trying to pass certain issues that hurt or help the other factions, and it's somewhat of a random thing in some ways, but it's also an action that you can take. But I really enjoy that part of it. It's fun. It's unique. It's interesting. It's different.
Totally different style of coin game.
Plus, I like the cover art on this one. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and the board is phenomenal. It's just beautiful.
And it's also it's one of those small ones, like Falling Sky.
But I would not recommend this as a starting point.
No.
It's very different than the others.
Again, lots of complexity to it.
I think Cuba Libre, I think, is a good starting point, and I also think People Power, which is the one we'll talk about here in just a second. But it's a great game. I enjoyed this way better the more I play it, and I've come to really appreciate it and really want to play it more.
And it's World War One.
It's Guns of August.
Something a little bit
Guns
different.
of August.
Let me give you it.
Oh, got it.
So that was number 11, right?
I'll be crushing my game.
So I think the last of the coin series is People Power.
Just came out.
Yeah, just
a couple months
came
ago.
out. So this is another 3-player coin. So it's, All Bridges Burning, and then there's this one. So this is the Philippines in like the 1980s. This is a very short game, especially compared to some of the other ones in this.
And it can be very short.
Yes,
If you
it's
don't-
a small map, which helps, and this takes a lot of things that are going on in it. So there is the government, and there are the what are they called?
Yeah, I've only played this one once, so I'm not that great.
Because it's the government. These are called the opposition, and the red guys are called something else, and I can't remember the name of them for the life of me.
I'm an idiot. I don't. Here, you keep talking.
Yeah.
I'll find the name.
Basically what you have is you have a traditional government faction, you have a traditional insurgent faction, and then you also have one of the non-violent factions that we first saw in Gandhi. And
Government, NPA, and reformers.
That's what it is. Okay.
Reformers.
And so you have this three-way struggle, and to me it feels a similar type of feeling than you get in something like Churchill, where it really is that three-way tug of war, whereas I felt like in All Bridges Burning it was like Reds against Whites, and also like try and bop the Blues every so often.
Well, yeah.
I felt like it was a bit more 1.5 rather than this way. It's equal on both sides.
So I would say at least the scenario we played. Didn't we do the campaign scenario?
Of this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This one specifically, the reformers and the NPA have got to work together to oust the government, because the government is set up, I believe, at the start of the game at their victory conditions.
I think they have one below it.
One below it. So they are very, very close, and if you don't get on it and do some protest and get out there and take some control away from them, they're going to win the game. And I think that was our experience with the first time we played it.
Yes.
We didn't do enough. I was trying to do some of the reformer stuff and
try to build some
spread out
bases
and do some things, and I'm like, oh, I just lost the game because the government,
and
we couldn't stop them.
Hammered my patronage, hammered aid, got a ton of money.
Yep.
And then that whole second round, it was just like...
Ran away with it.
Yeah, some very, very strong events, and couldn't be stopped.
So I bring that up because I think I have a lesser opinion of this one because we haven't played it enough. I also have a lesser opinion of this one because I hate it when a faction is in a winning position almost from the get-go, because then that kind of makes me do certain things. I don't like that in some ways. I want it to kind of be, it doesn't have to be fair. I just want it to be somewhat competitive. And I know it is when you know what you're doing. We didn't know what we were doing.
No.
But I think you need to understand that the government's going to walk away with it in your first game if you guys aren't working together and doing whatever you can to take, because you can't control your stuff or focus on your stuff and let the government run free. No. I guess is what I'm saying. The other thing about this one, you've played this.
I played this twice now.
Did you use the personality cards?
Yes.
So explain how those work, because I'm not sure I 100% get it.
So the personalities, you basically all just like choose one personality, and like that's who's active on your side, and they just give you like a persistent bonus. It's effectively like having a momentum card out, but you just like have one.
So for instance, Imelda Marcos, the Iron Butterfly, Charm, which is one of their ops, increases aid by 5 instead of 3.
Which is very strong.
It's huge, right? This one is... Oh, that's an election card. Corazon Aquino, Widower Symbol, place an additional activist in each city selected for recruit.
And that's the one that I used
Okay.
the last time I played. And then they also have Acts of Desperation, which are just like...
Last.
End of the game, some little like gotcha stuff, which is fine. But this one I would actually not recommend for newer players. And I say that because the game is very, very, very swingy. The victory conditions for, frankly, all the factions are actually quite low compared to some other games. I feel like in other coin games, I think about something like...
You have to build towards it.
Something like Fire and Lake especially, it takes forever.
Yeah.
And then getting those last 2 or 3 feels impossible with what the board state looks like. This one, like, hey, you need to get 9 points, and, you know, you can pick up 5 of those in Manila.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, you can do stuff here that's so swingy. As such, the game state has to be monitored very closely. It's very nuanced. And so it's very easy to like mess that up and for the game to skew one way and you lost real quick.
So experience is kind of the counteraction to that. Experience with the game tells you, okay, I got to do this, this, and this, or they're going to run away with it.
So if you want to do this as your first coin, play it a bunch of times and you're going to get there. The nice thing about this game is that it does not take very long.
Yeah, a couple hours.
It is 2 decks of cards, I believe.
I think our game was 90 minutes.
Yes.
And I like that. That's one of the reasons I love the British way. You can play a game in 45 to 70 minutes.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that.
And
right?
so that is something this does have going on for it, but people will say, oh, it's small. That means it's good for beginners.
Yeah, I
that's
think
not really necessarily true. Someone who's played this before is going to absolutely wipe you.
That's fool's gold. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, just because it's small.
It's small and short. Okay.
And
the ceiling for this game is very high.
We said that regarding Cuba Libre and meant it. As compared to Andy and Abyss, Fire in the Lake, and A Distant Plain. Having only 12 to 15 spots really makes your decision spaces a lot less. This only has 12 to 15 spots, but your decision spaces don't necessarily minimize because of that.
No. And there's so much more to consider in here because you're a very small mistake away from something very significant happening. And so you have to really be kind of on top of your game for this one.
We need to play this one more, there's no doubt.
Yes.
So,
but
it's 3-player game.
What I've experienced of it, but I also want to play it more.
Yeah.
To kind of really solidify what I think about it.
I want to play all the coin more.
That's also true.
Every single one of them.
So that was the end of the published core coin game.
So one comment I want to make about, so there are 11 volumes that are published. There are 4 others that have been announced and are in varying stages of design and development. I think the one that is the most near to coming out is Red Dust Rebellion, which is the first that is not based in history.
Oh, sci-fi.
It is a sci-fi game that goes on to Mars where we've established colonies, and it's like the government versus the revolutionaries. Looks awesome, amazing, adds a lot of cool things. That one, I guess, would be out early next year, if not
Who
maybe
knows
by the
at
end of
this
the year.
point, yeah.
So then that's volume 12. Volume 13, I believe, is China's War, which is Brian Train's third coin series game based on World War II.
Chinese Civil War.
In the East, the Chinese Civil War. So looks really cool and interesting. I have less information on that one because Brian doesn't necessarily share as much as some others, but I know it's getting closer. I've heard it's getting closer. That might be early next year. Volume 14 is Joe Dewhurst's A Pure Land, which looks at the Japanese, right, and their different insurgents. There's some religion insurgency there with some monks, and there's daimyo. Looks really great. We have interviews on all these games, by the way, on the blog. And then the 15th volume is a fading star. It goes into Somalia and adds piracy, so a completely unique mechanic.
Yeah.
And that one looks really good. Jan de Villeneuve is the designer. Did an interview with him. The game looks incredibly cool. So those are the 4 coming out. Now, you've heard me mention Syria. I have heard that there's a Syria game in development.
That has been announced, or like kind of in the works for ages.
I've never seen anything, but I also know that there's at least 1 or 2 others that are out there. But the next, so the coin series is really thought well of. People like it, so it has spawned other series.
Yeah.
So here's one, and we love this game. By the way,
this is the British way, and this is from Coin Multi-Pack Series Volume 1.
and they have a number 2 already announced, the Guerrilla Generation, which is Central America.
Which sounds incredible.
Yep.
So the British way, this is counterinsurgency at the end of the British Empire. So it starts like, it goes from
45.
Palestine through Cyprus. It's 45 through 59, basically. And so this is a set of 4 2-player coin games. And each of these are very short, very quick playing, and you get like a coin feeling, but it takes like
90 minutes at the most.
at the very most.
Yeah.
I've played some of these that take 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's also like a campaign game in this where you can link them all. And so in one session where you could have played Andy and Abyss, you could play all 4 of these, and guess
Yeah.
what? Same thing, right?
And still gives me the feel of coin, right?
Yes.
There's still government faction, the British. There's still insurgents, the Malayans, the Palestinians, the Kenyans, and what's the other one? Cyprus. EOK, I think, is the.
Yeah.
It's all there. It's just, I think, streamlined, somewhat simplified. The cards become really mean and really powerful.
And the 2-player system in this is very different from the 2-player system in Colonial Twilight.
Yeah, it's been modified.
And that's something that is really cool to see the evolution of that as well. In the British way, it's very much like there's this little track, and you can choose one of these things, and you can do that, or you could pass just to sit and block that, and then the other 2 are available.
Yeah.
But then whoever's the furthest to the left becomes
Goes
the first player
initiative.
next time. And so the order in which they're listed on the board is very important. But as a result, typically what you get in this game is you get a lot of events, because the events are very strong, and you get a lot of like op and special activities in this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a lim op because you're like, I want to take the lim op to go first on the next card. But
Well, and I do like this because you get to go every turn, right?
yeah,
One of
the pace feels much quicker.
It feels quicker. You know, in other coin games, you go once every other turn. Sometimes you get skipped, and in this one, you're not going to get skipped. You're going to go every turn, and I like there are 4 games. They're all different. 2 of them are similar, and 2 of them are similar. So I think it's Malaya and Kenya are similar, and Cyprus and Palestine are similar. But they're all unique. But they all have their own mechanics.
They're similar in that, like, the Malaya and Kenya have support and opposition.
But the other 2 only have political will.
But it's not to say that, like, Palestine and Cyprus are the same.
No.
They both have, like, their own very individual and separate set of rules and special chromes on top of that. Which is... the fact that they were able to put 4 of these in this box and for each of them to actually feel very different, a huge achievement. Really, huge achievement.
Very cool.
This is incredible. I have very high hopes for the next one in this series.
Well, and I have high hopes that somebody will come up with a couple of these, right? I don't want them just to end with 2. Surely there's enough similar...
Someone can do it.
You know, insurrections that you can package them into games.
But this is... So this is also, I would recommend, for new players.
Yes.
Very easy to recommend this, partly because it's only 2 players. It's much easier to get 2 players than it is to get 4. But on top of that, the games are small in scale, and they're also short.
Two deck
it's
cards,
much easier and more palatable to get someone to sit down. Hey, let's play for an hour. We're going to play through 18 cards.
Yeah.
You're going to do 18 things, and then the game's going to be over, and you will have won or lost.
You got to make those 18 things count, too.
And when you think about it in those terms, really changes what you're doing in these games, where you're like, Oh man, there's like you can't mess around in these.
Yeah, yeah.
It's this game is excellent.
But it's not necessarily the coin series. It's a coin series multi-pack.
Yes,
So it's
not
a
one of
derivation
them.
of it. The other series that has spun off of it is called the Irregular Conflict series. We talked earlier, Vijayanagara is one of those. A Guest of Robin Hood is another one. Can't remember if there's any others that have been announced. I don't think so, not yet.
No, but I know there's a lot in the works.
Yeah. It's just a very coin-like, but some differences.
Yeah, so they'll use like similar maps and similar pieces and concepts.
Yeah.
But there's enough changes where they're like, hey, this ceases to become a coin game and
Yeah.
it's more something else.
Yeah, so very unique. Now, we've talked about the series that have specifically directly spun off of coin. There's also some games that have, in my opinion, are coin series inspired.
Without
Right?
question.
And,
yes.
and I think the designers would all say that, right? So
and you know,
I'm going to pull
to
all
what-
these games over.
to
We're
what
going to.
degree those are is also interesting.
A little bit
I'm gonna
different.
pull out, this bad boy as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Sure.
So, one of the more famous ones, I think, is Root. This is designed by Cole Worley, put out by Leader Games.
Such a great game. Please don't be fooled by the cartoon.
This is a
cute
nasty little war game.
little woodland creatures. This is an amazing game.
And it's you have factions that are like moving guys out, building production, controlling areas.
Mm-hmm.
You have guys. You have the little insurgent woodland alliance who like they sneak around. They're the insurgents.
Yeah.
And they're trying to put guys out underneath and in between those things. And then you have like a little guy walking around doing his own stuff. A lot of the stuff that you will see in this game, you can see the inspiration if you
Absolutely.
play something like Andy Abyss.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Now, I do want to point out one thing. I think a lot of times people say, oh, that's coin series inspired because it's asymmetric. Asymmetry is only one aspect of coin,
Yes.
right? Along with asymmetry comes some of the faction goals, not just being different, but forming the game, and then some of the alliances that come with that. You still need to work together, at least with somebody for a moment. In this one, really the cats and the birds, I can't remember the name of the birds
Right,
ones,
yeah.
but they're directly opposed.
Yes.
And the others are kind of the woodland and the
raccoon.
the raccoon and the
vagabond.
Yeah, they're the opposition style, but it's more than just asymmetry. I just want to point that out. I think people just go, well, asymmetry means it's coin. No, Wilderness War, asymmetric, not a coin game, right? It's not a coin game.
Yeah, this is like, hey, I'm sending a guy out as a little insurgent. We're going to put a leader. We're going to do this little attack, and it's going to explode. And then my ideas of woodland freedom are now going to spread.
Yeah.
And then the government, the cats, are trying to go desperately put those fires out, but they're also trying to fight the birds. And the birds have this whole like hierarchy that they're trying to do and get all their leaders.
Yeah.
And they're really, really cool game. And then there's a billion expansions
Yeah.
to this, and they all work differently. Really, really cool.
I've played Root 5 or 6 times. I love it every time. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm terrible at it, but I do enjoy it, right? Another coin series inspired game that is probably less coin series than some of these others is 2040 and American Insurgency. We played this earlier this year. We reviewed it. Not our favorite game.
No.
We're going to say that. But there is coin influence here, right? It's only 2 factions. One's the government, one's the insurgents. You've got asymmetry. You use the cards for all different types of things, events and activations. There are all types of tracks that you have to worry about, social media, the power of your revolution. It's a very unique and interesting game. I think, unfortunately, production problems, some issues with the rules and the counters. One of the things I hated about it was on the play aid, it totally contradicted what was in the rules. And I actually got my marker out and I had to mark through it
was so
because
bad.
I'm like, I'm not going to be tricked by that again. I just think this needed some more development work and a little more time. But I thought it was interesting. That's probably all I'll say about it.
Yeah,
It was
but, like,
interesting.
Thematically, it fits in line with what a lot of the coin
Yeah.
games are doing. With
Not completely, but it is
like
similar.
you have the power differentials between the two factions and like
Asymmetry's
how they
there.
work, and you're like, oh, these guys can do a whole lot. how do I counter that with my less powerful forces? I have to do things differently. So a lot of the thinking of how you work your factions feels very coin in this one.
I also thought the graphic design in this one was lacking, but anyway.
Also, something that's a little bit different is District Commander series. Now, there's a few more. There's a Vietnam one, there's an Afghanistan one, and there's another one that I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, this is a made-up one, right? It's,
This
Maracas
was the first
is
one.
a fictional
This is like a fictional
city.
kind of Central American city. Again, this is only a 2-player game, but it has, again, wildly asymmetric forces, very strong government forces, but like the insurgent faction has lots of like bluffing, and they have lots of like special counters, and all their stuff's hidden. You have to go into an area, smoke them out, then you can attack them. That's a sweep and assault from a coin game, and this one's wonderful because it has varying victory conditions based on what you want to play. So you might be playing someone, you don't know how they win. Whereas in the coin games, you know how everyone wins. And so you have to figure that puzzle out, where you're like, hey, they keep building a lot of infrastructure.
That's how they're trying to
scoring
win.
lots of points on that. I need to counter that harder than I need to kill their units, because they're not taking as many negatives from units getting lost, kind of stuff.
We need to play this one again for sure.
It's a
Very
very
interesting
cool,
game.
and it's Brian Train, right?
Yeah, Brian's a very good designer. Probably one of the most coin-inspired games on this, actually Root, I think they're tied. Robotech Reconstruction, this just came out earlier this year. It was pre-ordered last year. So this is the Robotech universe from the 1980s, and yes, I'm a kid of the 1980s. Robotech was huge, but there are 4 factions in this. They're asymmetric. They have different victory conditions. This throws in some very interesting card mechanics too, though, that are very different than the coin series. This is definitely worth a look.
Yes.
If you like Robotech, get 4 friends together and play this. I felt like the entry to it was a little harder. I think it took us a while to grok it. Once we got it, I was like, whoa, this is really interesting.
When we
very
first
fun,
played it,
very unique.
it was this prototype copy with PDF rules. This is a much nicer kind of iteration of it.
It's very nicely made.
So look at this cute little box.
Yeah, I love it.
I cannot express to you how surprised I was at this.
Because the prototype was like huge.
It was this thick, and it was like this big. It was this huge.
We thought, that's going to be a big
prototype copy.
And then this came.
And then this showed up like, that's so cute.
Yeah.
And I don't really know as much about Robotech. I watched like Macross Plus once.
Macross. It's Macross, not Macross.
And so I watched that a few times, but like I don't really know anything about any of this really. And so
you don't need to.
No.
But it's cool.
And that's what I'm saying. I think the gameplay itself was good enough where I really enjoyed this. So if you like Robotech, you're going to love this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But even if you don't, it's still, the game is really fun of like, you're desperately trying to do your stuff. Quite a small board.
Oh, yeah. There's only like 8 spaces
it's very
on this
tight.
board.
And it wasn't a long game
2,
either.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like 10 spaces, but it's, I don't know. Very cool game. This is by Strange Machine Games. Say this name, because Dr. Wicks. I'm terrible at it, but this is a cool game. We enjoyed it. So a coin series inspired game. The last one I want to share with you, and then I want to talk about the other one that we know about, the Troubles.
Yep.
But that's not out yet. So this was a game I came across like a year and a half ago while trolling Facebook. I saw some Italian gentlemen playing this, and I thought, what the hell is that? It's World War II. It looks like a coin series game. And I'm like, dang, I got to look into it. So I looked into it. We got a copy. This is called Italy 43 through 45, The Showdown, La Risa dei Conti. This is a coin series game in World War II.
And they fully admit that this is blatantly ripped off from the coin series. I remember
and there's nothing wrong with that.
We first contacted them to see if we could buy a copy off of them, and they said the English language version isn't available yet. So we had to wait a few months, and then we bought one.
Well, and then we had to print the rules off because it didn't have the English yet. But I mean, it's a coin series game, right? Look at all the wooden cubes, the bases, the cylinders that you have stars on top that I haven't put on. You've got the cards that have, the icons for activation and the events.
It functions like...
Yep.
Okay. And I think this is just like an indie game published by these guys. Yep. You can go on their website and buy it, but...
The
box is a bit flimsy, so good luck with your international shipping.
But it's a neat little game.
I'm very curious to see.
We need to play it. We really need to play it. But there you go. And I just love the look of the box. And those are the 4 factions, right? And it just looks really cool. Anyway.
So the last one that we'll talk about today is The Troubles, which is going to be released from Compass Games.
Yep. Should have been released like a year ago. I'm not sure what's taking so long.
I don't know. I feel like that game's gone through a lot of development, so hopefully it's really good.
It has been in design since like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
I posted some stuff on our blog in 18, 19, and 20, and haven't really heard that much the last couple of years.
But that's
still in progress.
The Troubles. It's about the
Northern Ireland, and
Northern Ireland, British occupation, IRA, all that stuff going on. There's a lot on the blog about it. Various different interviews.
I did an interview, and there's card spoilers. Yep.
So there's a lot coming from that. I'm very curious about that one. That's for sure.
I will say this: when I share those posts or shared those posts on Twitter and Facebook, I got called more names or was told, "How dare you?"
It's a very polarizing topic.
Yep. And it was interesting, and I took those in stride and didn't. I just said, there are things that we can learn from any conflict, right? Yeah. I think there are things we can learn about the human condition, the way we do things, and why things devolve into what they devolve into. Part of it's because the British are bad people, but now I've just alienated like all of our friends there. I'm just kidding. I was just digging at him. Oh, he's an American now. I can't even. Anyway. Anyway, coin series inspired games. We shared 6 with you. I think there's more coming. I've seen others that have been out there, have been discussed.
Well, it's a way to do a game or something that's like a war game on topics that might not just be like lines of tanks shooting each other, right? And so
they've involved some messiness.
Yeah, and I think the messiness is the interesting part of most games.
Yeah.
Like when we play East Front games and it's like, here's my lines of troops fighting each other. We're doing the lines of troops fighting each other, but the interesting parts are like, okay, well, what happens when this happens? Or we run out of supply. What's going to happen here? If I surround these guys and they can't get food in, what's going on? Then you start to get into like real interesting conundrums about like, oh no, I need to do this, but that's going to have these consequences. So even on that scale, I think that stuff's interesting. When you get into real coin conflicts, that messy stuff is like different political and religious affiliations in a single family.
Yep.
And it sheds light on conflicts in a different way, and I think that opens up very interesting discussions and ways to think about it. And generally speaking, you get very well thought out games and something interesting to look at a topic as well.
So the final thing I want to say is there are 5 words that come to mind when I think of coin series games. Some of these are mechanics, some of them are concepts. The multi-faction treatment is, to me, number 1, right? Multiple people with differing priorities, different victory conditions is delicious. Asymmetry. I do things differently than you do them differently than that person does them differently there, we all win in a different way. Love that. I particularly love the ones where we have shared victory conditions. Like one of our 2 victory conditions is the same. An example of that is liberty or death, support or opposition. French and patriots want support, opposition. The British and the Indians want support. Love that, right? So asymmetry, multi-faction, the guerrilla concept. The concept of insurgents that are underground, you have to uncover them, they can be recovered, just great, right? The initiative and the sequence of play concept is just so cool. Trying to do what I need to do, but not allowing you to do what you need to do. Finally, the card assisted mechanic is awesome. I have always loved Twilight Struggle, Wilderness War, Labyrinth, because you do something, I use a card to undo it, because that's going to kill me or hurt me or help you. And those are the 5 things I think of when I think of the coin series.
And my understanding is, and I feel like I read this on GMT, is that those last 2, the card-assisted part of it and the sequence of play track, those are the 2 core tenets of a coin game.
I would agree, yeah.
Which I think the Irregular Conflict series is where there's divergence in those 2 aspects, or one of those 2. Where, like, that's what defines which part it goes into.
Got it.
I believe.
Okay.
Like, because
that's fair.
You look at something like Pendragon, wildly different gameplay, but it has those 2 core tenets, coin game.
Card assisted and the sequence of play.
Whereas it's different in the British way.
Yep.
And so
it's a different series.
We're not going to call it that. Yeah. And I think the Irregular Conflict series, I believe I read that on there. But
I'll have to do a little research on that.
Which I thought was interesting, where that's what they think. But yeah, I also love the bigger ones for a player count, because I love the table talk.
Oh, there's no doubt.
When
Negotiation.
It's like, please do this, or like, hey, I'll splash you some resources. If you pass, I'll take this event, and you'll get to do big op and special activity because I very desperately need this event, and if you screw me over, I'm going to be in trouble, but I'll also help you out. Like, all of that stuff going on is wonderful.
We actually really like negotiation in games.
I love it, yeah.
Negotiation, bidding, trading, those are always cool mechanics.
Yes.
They just make an interesting experience.
Always love that in game.
I love the coin series. I don't think there's a secret about that.
No.
I want all of you to play and love the coin series. We have done hundreds of videos and articles and reviews and interviews because we both love the coin series. I don't think there's a doubt about it. If I had one series I could play the rest of my life, I think it would be the coin series.
Yeah, that's probably true.
There's a lot of really good ones, though. But
yes, but those are also like, I also love a lot of those games, but then on top of that, they can play lots of players.
Yeah.
And if I only had one set of games, I want to be able to sit with as many people as I can.
With 4 or 5 players and have a great time. So I've enjoyed talking about this. I feel exhausted, tired, mentally and physically.
Well, we can.
You looked at me like
someone just walked into my house upstairs, so we're going to let you go. But appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander for Players8.com.
And I'm Grant.